Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, bye.
Are you up? Are you online, Tom Markert?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you very much for your presence.
You're welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to open this public impasse
I
hearing
think we have
today.
to vote to allow him to appear.
Oh, do we need to? Do we have to have a vote to allow him to appear?
Yes,
Because then we can vote no, and then he can go back to wherever he is and have a good
Potentially,
time, have
yes,
breakfast.
yes. We need to call the roll without Commissioner Markert, and then you can conduct the vote.
That's what my notes say. That's fine. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyway, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to open this public hearing. Today is Thursday, August 21st at 2:25. The time is now 10:06 or 7. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Markert,
Here.
Vice Mayor Long,
Here.
Commissioner Cassell,
Here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
Prior to the pledge, we should now have the motion to admit Tom Marker to appear telephonically or whatever it is.
So
can I have a
moved.
motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Tom, you're on. Thank you.
Thank
right.
you all.
If everybody could please stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may all be seated. I have some prepared statement that I'd like to make here this morning. This is a public hearing pursuant to, can everyone hear me? This is a public hearing pursuant to section 447.403 of the Florida statutes. The purpose of this meeting is to resolve the impasse in labor negotiations between the City of Delray Beach and the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association, which is the union that represents a bargaining unit comprised of city police officers and sergeants and a separate bargaining unit comprised of city police lieutenants. During this proceeding, the parties will be afforded the opportunity to explain their respective positions on disputed items. Thereafter, the Commission shall take such action as it deems necessary to be in the public interest, including the interest of the public employees involved, to resolve the dispute impasse issues. The procedure for this hearing shall be as follows. At the beginning of the hearing, the Commission will allow public comment regarding the subject matter of the hearing. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person. In accordance with the City of Delray Beach local rules of procedure, if more than 20 people indicate their desire to speak on the same issue or a related subject, the Chair, by consensus of the Commission, may establish a maximum time limit not to exceed 1 hour for public comments. After the public has had an opportunity to comment, each party will be allowed 30 minutes to present their respective items on impasse. Because the union declared impasse in these negotiations, the union will present its position first. I'm going to ask all parties not to make any comments or questions during the present presentations by both the police union and the city. During their respective presentations, the parties may present argument from their representatives and may provide the Commission with any written materials that they would like the Commission to consider in resolving the impasse. During the parties' presentations, the party should not be interrupted or asked questions by representatives from the opposing party, members of the public, or City Commission. I just said that. After the party's presentation, the Commission may deliberate, comment, and or ask questions concerning the impasse issues. Once the Commission has concluded its deliberation, it will take such action as it's deemed necessary in the public interest, including the interest of public employees involved, to resolve all disputed impasse. With that said, I would like to open this meeting up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this matter, please come to the lectern up here. Please give your name and address for the record, and you will each have 3 minutes. And by the way, the timer, for those of you who haven't presented before, we have a timer up here, so you can kind of gauge yourself in your comments. Because of the amount of people that are anticipated to speak, we will be very strict with the rule.
Makes sense.
There you go.
Absolutely. Good morning, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Clerk, Commissioners. My name is David Rubin. I'm a resident of 11 Northeast 7th Street in beautiful Delray Beach. My family and I, we have 2 small boys, Charlie and Jack, 5 years old and 2 years old. They are a handful, but I'm just getting payback from what I did to my parents. We've lived here in the city since 2017. Just 2019, we bought our house, thank God, before COVID. We can afford it. And before that, we lived at Pineapple Grove Village Association. I went to St. Andrew's School in Boca, so it's kind of a return to that. I graduated in 2005. So some ties. I remember when parking was free. I remember bushes, seafood. So I love Delray. I want to talk about perceptions and reality because this is my very first meeting. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but I have not participated in local politics or read all the meeting minutes and so forth. So if anything else, that's a good byproduct of this whole situation is that I'm going to pay attention. I need to pay attention for my boys and my wife. So I'm here to share some perceptions and reality about funding our brave police and police pensions, which is obviously a sticking point in this impasse. First, I feel very powerless to sway you, candidly. Mayor, I emailed you a couple of times and you were very, very gracious to respond. I know we were trying to meet so I could just get more data. I'm so tired of having perceptions and thinking I know an issue. I'm sure there's way more than us just not funding our police, right? I get that. But I do feel a little powerless, and hopefully that changes. Second, I trust you have your reasons for your stance. And third, I believe Mayor Carney, one of the reasons you were elected was to stop the frivolous spending or the perceptions of frivolous spending. I'm just not sure that this is a good sticking point for that platform. But again, that's based on my limited knowledge. I tried looking through all the public records. It's almost impossible. I'm in technology, and we could stand to update the way that we put our meeting minutes. It's not searchable. It's very hard to follow along. So anyway, I am very, very grateful for the opportunity to speak. I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate. And I truly hope that all the brave people here and the ones that are charged with protecting taxpayer and being fiduciaries have open minds, open hearts, and we try to figure this out, because this is way too cool of a city and way too great of a state and way too great of a country to be having this kind of discussion, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rubin.
Hello, my name's Melissa Morales, Milkman. I live at 19 Northeast 17th Street. I've been here a few times, but today I'm here to support our Delray Beach Police Department. My family and my friends pay a lot of money to live here and raise our families. Little did we know before moving here we would be sacrificing our safety, which unfortunately seems to be one of the last priorities amongst the city. The Delray Beach Police Department should not be in the bottom of the county when it comes to pay and benefits. From 2024 to 2025, due to the police department's work, they have reduced overall crime by nearly 50% citywide. Losing more officers than Delray already has will obviously affect this. We are only at August 21st of 2025. Since the new year started, there have been 83 auto thefts, 3 of my own cars, 184 burglaries, and over 30 shooting-related calls. Last car theft being this past Sunday, August 17th, across the street from me on Northwest 18th Street. The Delray Beach Police are doing the best they can with the little resources and staffing they currently have. There's an additional 15 more officers processing with other agencies to leave this October. Not because they want to, but because they have families to feed and bills to pay. Keep Delray from going back to what it used to be, not safe. Pay the people who keep us safe every day the bare minimum they're asking. They should be nowhere near the bottom in our county for pay or benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Kay Renz. I live at 4254 South Magnolia Circle in Sable Lakes. I wanted to come to this meeting. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it with my work schedule, but what happened the other night prompted me to absolutely be here. 4 o'clock in the morning, my ring goes off. Yet another intruder in our neighborhood has sneaked through my property and is trying my car. Within moments, I called 911. And these incredible people, there were 10 squad cars at my house within just a few minutes, making me and my husband feel safe and secure. I want to give a massive shout out to Officer Walker. I believe he might be a new officer because he didn't even have a business card. He had a crossed out name on a business card. He came into my home, calmed me down, and they apprehended the person who was roaming through Sable Lakes looking to steal from us yet again in our community. It constantly keeps happening. But these officers are so outstanding. They caught the perpetrator, they arrested him. I mentioned Officer Walker. There was also another officer there, and I'm sorry I didn't get his name. For 15 years, he keeps coming to our community to try and stop the crime that is happening. They are here to protect us, and our community needs to protect our police officers and give them everything that they need. We pay a fortune in taxes. They are the people that we need to give it to. I also want to talk about economic development. My first job in the city here was in the Monday, Thursday paper, writing with former Mayor Jeff Pearlman when he was a young reporter. My job was to write about East Atlantic Avenue when no one wanted to go there. I had a column called Shopping in Style. They said, go to East Atlantic Avenue, no one wants to go there. Economic development does not happen if we do not feel safe in our communities. The only way to feel safe in our communities is to support our police officers, and I'm asking you, we will do anything, our community will do anything to support them. Please do everything that you can to make sure that they get everything that they need to take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Chuck Halberg, 120 Northwest 4th Avenue, President of Delray Citizens for Delray Police, who has supported our police in the community for 38 years. Today I'm here, though, as a resident, a 34-year resident who's raised 2 children here and raising a great-grandson and have a granddaughter coming in November. Thankfully, my kids are in Delray, and we love this city. I'm just here as a business guy, simply. If I don't take care of my people, they're going to go elsewhere, which has been happening. I know nothing about the unions, really. I was always in management and construction, so I was never a union guy. I don't know anything about the pensions or the drop. But I can't comprehend how we are not competing with at least Boynton Beach and personally Boca Raton. I don't understand it. We're similar demographics, we're similar populations, wealth varies, but as a business guy, what's happening is exactly what's happening. We've lost 22 officers, and so I've heard 15 more leaving. We must compete with our neighboring cities if we don't want to continue to lose good officers. And we're not talking just young officers like Chad Mason, who I've mentioned before. This kid was a superstar and could have been. We've lost him to, I believe, the sheriffs. But we're losing 10-year officers, 11-year officers. It's not good. So I urge you to compensate our officers the way they should be and compete with our neighboring cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
William Roach, 1011 Seagate Drive. In recent years, we've all heard the slogan, defund the police. This belief has resulted in once beautiful cities being run into the ground, exploding crime, increased homelessness, and open-air drug use. And it's led to a mass exodus of businesses and taxpayers seeking refuge from the lawlessness and corruption, seeking a safe place to raise a family, to run a business, just to live their lives in peace. In Delray Beach, your consistent non-action and non-competitive wages have essentially defunded the police, causing a mass exodus of quality police officers joining other departments supported by actual competent city leadership. Seeking leadership from politicians who actually deliver on their campaign promises to serve the residents who elected them, not prioritizing their own political aspirations over the needs of residents who fund their existence. I ask you, who suffers the consequence of your inept leadership? Not the city manager you just actually voted to give a raise while raising our taxes. There's zero accountability. Can you even name one thing that's improved for the taxpaying residents in the last few years? On the Barrier Island, the lack of police presence and slow response time is shameful and seems deliberate, especially when you depend on our high property taxes to run this city. Take a drive on the Barrier Island from Fort Lauderdale to Palm Beach. You will see consistent police presence until you reach Delray Beach. Why is that? Your solution's always the same, to squeeze the business owners, the taxpayers, and productive citizens of society, even when the tax rates and insurance rates are already sky high. The The services of this city have regressed in recent years. Don't gaslight us. The residents have eyes and a brain. We can see the lack of progress while neighboring Boca Raton has flourished. We lost our longtime police chief who stated that he does not have the resources to properly protect the residents of Delray Beach. He's since relocated to a better run city, and now our city and residents are much less safe because of this. You are bleeding police officers from the police department, with 12 to 15 more officers slated to leave in October. How is this acceptable?
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Joe Marion. I live at 131 Northwest 1st Avenue, Delray Beach, right across the street over here. Commissioners and Mayor, thank you for letting me speak today. And officers, thank you for your fine job. Real quickly, I hadn't planned to speak today, but I kind of, after reading what I could about the issue, I'm realizing that, I applaud the commission for trying to save taxes or keep taxes low. But where you're saving it is not the right place. The amount you're saving is not a lot. I mean, it really amounts to pennies, on the dollar as far as being a resident and a taxpayer. I don't like paying taxes any more than anybody else does. But I don't think that what I'm going to be saving taxes relative to what the police officer are asking for is worth it. I remember moving here to Delray Beach 20 some odd years ago. You couldn't walk down Atlantic Avenue. It wasn't safe. There were prostitutes walking the street. It's nothing like that now, and it's because of the fine job that our police officers have been doing. Do not defund them. Give them what they need, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the Commission, City Manager, City Attorney. My name is Paul Cannon. I'm Chair of the Police Advisory Board. I live at 1021 East Heritage Club. First of all, I wish to congratulate our new Chief of Police, Darrell Hunter. A promotion well deserved, and we look forward to this being a turning point and we can move forward. Which brings me on to my second point, that I want to thank all our officers, our sworn officers in the room. You guys get up every morning, you kiss your loved ones goodbye, never knowing whether or not you're going to be coming home for dinner that night. My heart goes out to you. Thank you, each and every one of you, for what you do. There's two possible outcomes of this meeting from what I understand. Please correct me if I'm wrong. We can either find agreement between the two parties, or the city can impose a settlement. I believe that that latter action would be unavoidably detrimental to the future of our police department. It would also mean that you've got to start this process all over again comes September. So what have we been doing for the last year? Let's find a way to get together, to come to some agreement so we can move forward. And I call upon both parties to negotiate in good faith, and let's reach a settlement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this topic? Going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. We now go to, it's now the PBA's opportunity to present you have the floor to present your position and items of regarding the impasse. Please remember that you are limited to 30 minutes. We'll move it from 3.
I'm joking. I don't need it. It's fine.
I was reallocating the time that was giving the rest to me, so there you go.
I appreciate the chair, but I feel like I'll function better standing up.
And if you could kindly identify yourself for the record.
Oh yeah, I'll make an appearance for the record. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you
over
perfect.
This? Good? All right. So my name is Brendan Keeler. I'm legal counsel for the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association. As you had mentioned earlier, Mayor, we are the certified bargaining agent for the City of Delray Beach Police Department's officers, sergeants, lieutenants, and now captains. There are 3 bargaining units here. We're at impasse with 2 of your bargaining units. One is the officers and sergeants. The second is the lieutenants bargaining unit. So any references in this presentation to the articles at issue I'm talking about both contracts, both bargaining units, just so it's clear.
So noted.
Okay. One of the articles is a different number in the lieutenant's contract, so you'll see that as well. It's referenced as Article 25 and like Article 29 or 27. Anyway, I prepared a presentation. I believe it's part of the record. I'm not sure if it could be made part of the record at some point. I did submit our recommendation to the commission a few weeks ago, so I would hope that you had read that. There's nothing really any different from what I'm about to propose here this morning. So having said that, I'll get started. Just so you're aware, I'm sure you had a conversation with your city attorney, or perhaps the outside labor counsel, that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So there's a strict duty of neutrality and fairness. You're sitting up here as if you were a judge. That's how I like to explain it. So, these are important decisions you're making. You approach it with a duty of fairness and neutrality. And I think another way to explain it is, and I have in the slide, is it'd be similar to, because obviously you don't have these types of hearings. It's probably a good thing when you're at an impasse, but a similar type of hearing would be like a site plan approval, which I'm sure you get all the time. But you're now sitting in your capacity as representing the public. So you have to be fair and impartial to both the city and the union. And that takes us to what the actual statute is. As you said, what's the reason we're here is this Florida statute. And I've highlighted a very specific portion, which your decision and your action here today is supposed to be in the public interest. And I've underlined this part, which is including the interests of the public employees involved. So your decision here today is bigger than just the public interest. It includes these actual officers and sergeants and lieutenants that are sitting here before you. So that has to enter into your decision here today. So moving on, the actual articles are at impasse. It's on 4, right? It's Article 8, management rights, Article 10, wages, Article 12, pension, Article 27 and 29, which is alcohol and drug abuse policy. So I'll take care of the easy ones first. So the management rights article, in this article, this was the city was proposing to, I guess, include expressly language about psychological examinations. The way it's currently written is just medical examination. The PBA agreed, and if you'll see, I took this language, you'll see this a lot, I just took the language right out of the magistrate's recommendation, so that you can see it's taken directly from there. But the PBA had said all along during negotiations that we're fine with that so long as it's consistent with the federal law, which is 42 United States Code 12112. And that was the recommendation of the magistrate. He had said, it is noted that there's also similar language in your other contracts. So we're proposing that you accept the magistrate's recommendation when it comes to Article 8 management rights in both contracts. As far as Articles 27 and 29, the alcohol and drug abuse policy, the PBA also accepts the magistrate's recommendation. So we had never disagreed that the officers are subject to post-accident testing. I think that the issue was they can do it anyway. So this language is just additive. So there was really no rationale to adding it when you already can do it pursuant to law. And the magistrate essentially said, well, it seems like we're all in agreement on this anyway. So he basically said the city's proposal is recommended. And so we're accepting that recommendation of the magistrate. And that's on page 26 and page 27. So moving on, Article 12, pension. So the pension article, the PBA accepts the magistrate's recommendation regarding the pension proposal. And again, I've taken this directly from the magistrate's recommendation, but one of the main aims in our argument in getting this change to the pension article in the contracts is simply parity with the fire department. So when it comes to the 8-year drop, the fire department already has the 8-year drop. When it comes to utilizing Chapter 185 funds, the same thing, I guess the analogous funds For fire is Chapter 175 with the property tax, property insurance, excise taxes. But for police, it's Chapter 185, so it deals with the motor vehicle insurance, excise tax. So they get to utilize their 175 funds to fund their pension COLAs, whereas the police, there is no COLA currently. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a cap on their pension at $108,000, and that was one of our proposals, and we withdrew that proposal. So we were focusing on recouping this Chapter 185 money, which we had agreed to give 100% of the overage back in 2000 or early to mid 2000s, I believe, is when it was done. But this money, we're proposing to utilize the 185 money to create share accounts for retirees. And so we're looking to achieve parity with the fire department. They're using their 175 monies. The magistrate agreed, fire's using it, they have the 8-year drop. The police pension, why should it be any different from the fire pension? And then he cited that our willingness, meaning the PBA, to drop its proposal to raise the cap diminishes the fiscal impact from the city as one type of objection. And he found that our argument was compelling. City didn't address the parity issue with the fire department. And when it comes to specifically the 185 premium tax revenue, we're looking to allocate, as I just stated, half of the overage of the 2000, I believe it's the 2012 funds that's received. That's what we go by. That goes into a share account to fund for retirees. And we did an actuarial study. We had an actuary actually testify at the hearing. And he did a 30-year projection of his study, and it realized the present day savings, so in today's dollars, of $6.122 million, which these studies are done over a 30-year projection, so that costed out is in the range of $26.7 million. And as stated, the savings are realized because those funds are now being used to offset the pension contributions of the officers. So the half that right now 100% is going towards the unfunded liability. So if it's changed to how we're proposing to change it, half of that overage would now be utilized to pay the pension contributions of the officers. The other half would go into the share accounts. And that results in, again, present day savings of $6.122 million. And what I found interesting, and the magistrate did as well, is and this is based upon the testimony of Mr. Ambrose. He's the partner of an actuarial firm based out of Fort Lauderdale. They represent, I want to say, 135 pension plans. Of those 135, 65 of them are public safety pension plans. And he had testified that the way the city currently funds or uses the 185 funds is in 5 or less of the 65. So it's atypical. And I'd imagine it's atypical because it doesn't result in the types of savings you get when you do what we're proposing to do. And then moving on, the drop extension, the pension article was kind of twofold. One, it was the 185 money, and then two, it was the drop extension to 8 years. Our proposal was to extend the drop to 8 years with a 3% employee contribution. And again, we have another cost savings. When you look at the actuarial study that was done and the cost out, it states that there will be a $2.1 million savings in present value, which over the 30-year period of the 30-year projection is almost $6.5 million in savings. And the city's required contribution, if you look at the study, I'm not sure if you all have, I believe it's part of the record. It shows that the required contribution to the city decreases every single year except for one. And these savings are attributable to two things. One is that when the employees enter the drop, well, not enter, but when they start years 5 through 8, they're actually contributing 3% of their salary during that time. And then two, their pension COLA that they would normally get, it's delayed until after they complete the drop. So it's delayed by 3 years. So there's additional cost savings there. And what I also found interesting if you look at this 30-year projection, the pension with this proposal, the 8-year drop, 3% employee contribution, pursuant to the actuarial study and the actuary's testimony, your pension is still over 100% funded. It says 106% funded with this proposal. And he cited two comparator agencies when it comes to the 8-year drop, or any type of drop extension for that matter. There's 6 agencies that have 5-year drops. There's one that has 6-year drop. 2 have a 7-year drop. 6 have an 8-year drop. FRS has an 8-year drop. So FRS, it's kind of a big deal to change FRS. To change FRS, you have to get the entire legislature to vote on that. So obviously, if the legislature thought it was a good idea for the state, I would submit to you it's a great idea for the city of Delray Beach. 4 comparator agencies use the Chapter 185 premium tax revenues, in which the way the PBA has proposed it. One agency allows all Chapter 185 premium tax revenues to be distributed to employee share plans. There's at least 4 here in Palm Beach County that do it that way. West Palm Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Boynton Beach, just to name a few, Jupiter, town of Jupiter. So just to name a few, just locally here within this county. And notably, he cited to the city's data when he made this recommendation. So we submitted data, the union did, and the city did, and he made a note that the city's data actually confirms our observation, meaning the PBAs, that most comparators have a drop of more than 5 years, and almost half of those do receive Chapter 185 money to allocate the excess amount into share accounts. So he, based upon that, all of those facts, he found that the PBA's pension proposal was reasonable. There's a mention that, again, I already stated, we dropped our ask on the moving the pension cap or removing it entirely. Here at the city, which is atypical, the only pensionable earnings for officers here are base pay. So there's details and overtime are not entering in the equation when it comes to their pensionable salary. The city didn't disagree. But he cited that as one more reason the city should accept the PBA's proposal, placing the city in a more competitive position, in line with the stated argument that we need to recruit and retain officers. So it's more than just salary, right? It's more than just wages. You know, big picture, you want to look at what's your retirement plan. Similarly, we argued that extending the drop, it's contrary to the stated purpose of your wage proposal, which I just touched on, which is to attract and retain officers. You know, this proposal keeps officers on the job an additional 3 years. You know, that experience is irreplaceable. As he stated, the PBA precisely argues that these veteran officers are not only invaluable when it comes to their experience and ability to train new hires, but the city is at the point where it needs to retain as many officers. And I don't think you would disagree with that assessment. I was going through the binder provided by the city's outside labor council. I believe they have listed 20 officers that have left in the spreadsheet. I believe there's more on their way out. And I believe, my count's 25. I think there's 20 in there. So I think it's more than is listed in the spreadsheet. And there is a comment on mutual consent. I don't want to get too much into the weeds with this, but when Chapter 185 money, when this all came out and what you were allowed to do with it, I referenced 2012. That's when a decision came out that said, when the statute was changed, that any excess funds will be used to create defined contribution plan for the benefit of officers, unless there's a mutual agreement to use it otherwise. Here, there was a mutual agreement to use it otherwise. In the contract, it states that the city will receive all of the 185 funds, but this contract is expired. There's no longer a contract in place. We no longer have an agreement, so we no longer have mutual consent. So the statute requires mutual consent. You have to mutually agree to this type of, I guess, language in the contract. So If you're going to choose to impose the 185 language on us, I would say you're not allowed to pursuant to the law. Now, he'll say that's my opinion, and it is. That's my legal opinion. The city will have a different opinion, but take that for what it's worth. As far as Article 10 wages, this is the only recommendation of the special magistrate that we rejected. And as he said here in bold, consistent with the reasoning expressed above, it's recommended that the city's wage proposal be adopted. So while it is true, the magistrate did recommend the city's proposal, he also said the following. The facts indicate that neither party's proposal is the perfect solution. The truth is somewhere in between. So not exactly a vote of confidence in his recommendation is what I would say. He additionally said the PBA proposal does a somewhat better job encouraging retention in the second and third years of the CBA. I believe that's a stated goal of this commission, and not necessarily the commission, but of the city's bargaining team, was retention, not just recruitment. It was twofold. If you recruit someone here, you want them to stay here. You don't want them to leave after year 2, year 3, year 4. You want them to stay. He then identified another issue with the city's proposal, which is the city's proposal results in a compression of the unit salary schedules. And that's on account of, we refer to it as the squeezing of the balloon. If you look at the step plan as if it were a balloon, if the balloon is filled up uniformly, right, everyone's getting the same increase. And that's what the PBA's proposal is. Under the city's proposal, they're universally lowering the percentages between steps to begin with, but then as you get through the step plan in the later steps, your increase decreases, your increase decreases, if that makes sense. So it results in what we're referring to as a squeezing of the balloon at the top end. And those monies are being redirected towards the lower end of the step plan, which short term may solve your issue of recruitment, but for retention purposes, as stated by the magistrate, the PBA proposal does a somewhat better job encouraging retention in second and third years of the CBA. And that's why our proposal is keeping the uniformity in the increases, is to maintain that step plan so that, a year 2 officer can say, hey, where am I going to be at 10 years from now? Where am I going to have 12 years from now? Because there's a lot of transparency now when it comes to what other officers are getting. These guys all work together. They're on task forces together. So they talk. Everyone talks. I'm sure you talk with your counterparts at other cities. But ultimately, the magistrate said it's respectfully submitted that the compression of the salary schedules is the lesser of two evils when compared to the city's admitted problem of attracting and retaining officers. So again, not exactly a vote of confidence in his recommendation. He's referencing both of these as evils. It's just one's not as evil as the other, if that makes sense. So I put together some slides where I've put the city's proposal up against neighboring agencies. Now, you've got this big spreadsheet from the city about who they're using. But if you look at the spreadsheet they've included in their binder, every single agency that, except for one of the 20, they're going to PBSO, one went to the Martin County Sheriff's Office. So really, when you're thinking about how you're going to resolve this impasse, you shouldn't be looking at or thinking about that chart and those other agencies. You should be thinking about the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, because that's who you're losing people to. I apologize. I might need glasses, but probably should have thought that through better. So Boca goes without saying. I mean, obviously they have a higher tax base, but when you look at this is for 25-26. And their contract, this is the last year of their contract starting 10/1 of 2025. Just using the 40-hour annual, a step 1 officer at the city of Boca Raton is hired at $86,000. Under the city's proposal, with an associate's, it's $74,000, and with a bachelor's, it's $77,000. Now, you might be wondering, what's the other pay, the step plan below that one? That's for the third year. So the last year of this contract that you're considering, that's what step 1 pay is and step 12 pay. So just in the contract that starts for Boca contract year starting 10/1/2025, they're already way above where officers, sergeants, lieutenants are going to be this incoming year. And they top out faster, 10 years. So it gets worse. It's like a bad infomercial. Wait, there's more. So step 10, if you look at step 10 for the Boca plan, you have to look at step 10 for the Delray plan. And so after 10 years at Boca, your shift annual is 135, and you're going to be at step 10 officer with a bachelor's, you're at 112. Just to put it in perspective.
May I ask a question? But
No.
there's
Well,
oh,
not
but you
supposed to-
have
I would ask that all the
Okay.
questions wait till the end of the presentation.
Yeah, and I'm
Rules are
running
strict.
out of time, so I'm going to kind of move it along. But this is made part of the record, so you'll be able to review all this, and you can take as much time. I don't know how much she told you, as much time you can take to deliberate or whatever. So there's sergeants, lieutenants. You're looking at it's 3 steps to max out as a lieutenant. You're at 177 40-hour annual, and you top out 4 years, 163. So PBSO, here's the big one that, the exodus is occurring and still going on. You look at the proposals for 24-25. I don't know in that chart, I didn't check it, but if they updated it to reflect the cost of living adjustment that PBSO deputies received. Just in July, they do their cost of living adjustment a little weird, so I'm not sure that the staff was aware of that. But they have a career ladder that you can progress through with years of service and educational requirements and training to ultimately you could be a career deputy for, you'd be topped out at $138,000. And if you're in that career 4 deputy ladder, you're at 93 if you're in step 1. But I think it's important to note, PBSO also, one of the big, one of the big draws also with PBSO is the retirement benefits, right? They're in the Florida retirement system. So when you look at these pay plans, the city's proposal at the bottom, the contributions for a city police officer to their retirement is 10%. So right off the rip, you take 10% off of all those steps you see there. So a step 1 officer at $72,129, really you're taking $7,200 off of that because they're contributing to their pension plan $7,200. When you look at the PBSO deputy at step 1 at $74,000, they're only contributing 3% of their income to their retirement. So there's more money realized, more money in their pockets, so to speak, when it comes down to pension contributions. So similar, again, I'm under time constraints. This is what I was referencing, just so you're aware. I'm not just pulling this out of the thin air here, but in the collective bargaining agreement for PBSO, Article 29, it gets into in Section 2 what all the cost of living adjustments are. So they had a 4.5%, a 5.5%, and a 6% cost of living adjustment. And we're going into, I believe this is the 2nd year of the contract. Yes. Okay. Palm Beach Gardens, and now here's another one. I don't think city staff is aware of this because this is hot off the presses. We just negotiated this last week with the city of Palm Beach Gardens. Now, they don't have a step plan, so what you see is a pay range, and their pay ranges are going up over the next 3 years for starting officer pay. This year, 10/1/2025, $75,000, 10/1/2026, $80,000, 10/1/2027, $85,000, and all of the corresponding maxes are going up by that same equivalent amount. I will add, I found this information out. I did their bargaining. Because we're curious, how do we equate a pay range to a step plan? And at the city of Palm Beach Gardens, an officer there will reach the maximum of the pay range in 12 years. And a sergeant will reach the maximum of the pay range in 5 years. So if you're a year 2 sergeant right now at Palm Beach Gardens, by the end of their contract, 3-year contract starting 10/1/2025, that maximum, you're going to be at $155,000. And if you're a 12-year officer, you're going to be at $130,000. And this is the contractual language agreed to, and you can see it's almost 10% increase across the board. Fiscal year 26, so 10/1/2025, 10, for second year contract, 10 for the third year. That's just for officers, sergeants. It's almost 11.5% in year one. So it's a 10, 10, and 10 is what I would say. And then that takes us to Boynton Beach. So Boynton Beach, I put that map up there. Everyone's familiar with the geography here, but Boynton Beach to the north, Boca Raton to the south. PBSO fills in all the gaps, right? They're out west. They're in unincorporated Delray Beach. They have a district out there. So I'm going off of the agencies you're surrounded by as well. That was one of the arguments. So this is we're presently in the last year of the Boynton Beach contract, which is the following in green, kind of the vertical step plan. And if you see this would be the first year of the city's proposal. Now we're already in what would technically be the first year of the city's contract. So say we had agreed to this back before 10-1 started, this would be the respective step plans for each agency. So the one thing I'll note is that this is an 11 step plan for Boynton. So 10 is really step 11 because they start at step 0. Kind of weird, but the way they approach it is you have 0 years experience, so you're step 0. Anyway, step 10 on that Boynton step plan is really step 11, so that's 108. And if you're looking at an officer with Delray, if this was actually in place 10-1, you would be at 109,911. So it's close, but again, this would be the brand new contract. This would be a new 3-year deal. But Boynton has also reached an agreement on wages for their contract their new contract starts 10-1. And if you look, this is what we're trying to argue for our step plan with the squeezing of the balloon, in that it's causing on the top half of the step plan to compress and shift it. The higher earnings towards the beginning is that beginning with step 5, which is step 6, I guess, right? It's 94,000. If you're a 6-year officer in Boynton Beach, you'll be bumping up to 94,131 on 10-1, right? Under the city's plan, you'd be a step 6. You'd be at 93,950, and it only gets worse from there. Beginning, if you extrapolate this out, the difference in increases only gets exponentially worse. So by step 10, there's a 5K difference between a Delray officer and a Boynton officer, and by step 11, it's 7K. And by the second year of the Boynton contract, by step 10 and step 11 of the contract, it's an $8,000 difference and a $10,000 difference. So you're talking about a Boynton officer, they're right over the border. A step 9 or step 10, they're making $8,000 to $10,000 more. So I'm going to skip ahead because I have a minute and a half. So that brings us to what the PBA's proposal is. So the PBA's proposal, it mirrors essentially the city of Boynton Beach's step plan. Doesn't squeeze the balloon, as I already explained. It's consistent uniform steps for officers and sergeants throughout. It's fair treatment across the board. Addresses the retention and recruitment issues. This is our step plan, a lot to take in. You already have it. I'm not going to go through it. I've included this email from Chief Major. You've all seen this. Basically, the chief saying everyone's leaving. And I know ultimately one of them was a 10-year sergeant, 1 year was an 11-year canine officer. They went to the sheriff's office. So I'll end it with this. 2025, I've been told it's 25 have left since contract negotiations began in 2024. It's $360K to hire and train an officer, only for them to leave after 3 years. You times that by the 25, you're looking at $9 million money lost, money that the city let walk out the door. The cost of our wage proposal that we submitted to you to resolve this impasse, it's $15.89 million. The city's is $15.29. It's $600,000. Difference is $600,000 to get a deal done on these wages. City had $40 million in unreserved, unappropriated fund balance set aside at the time of the impasse hearing. I doubt the city blew through $40 million in 4 months. So that's all I have. I was going to read some. I brought resignation letters. I brought exit interviews. I'll add these to the record, but I've highlighted them multiple. On these exit interviews, wages and benefits received, checkbox, very dissatisfied. Again, checkbox, very dissatisfied. And it just repeats, rinse, repeat. And sadly, a number of them. Would you recommend the city as a good place to work? Answer no. I can tell you it's sad for me to read that in these exit interviews. As a prosecutor here in this county, in this circuit, assigned to this field office here at the Delray Beach Courthouse, you have some of the best and finest and well-trained officers in the state, in the country, for that matter. So I would submit to you that, pay them.
I need you to. I want to be strict. I'm trying to strict time limits here. Thank you, though.
Sure.
I will hold.
Thanks for your time.
I'm going to hold him to the same with the addition of your
Keeler.
42 seconds
Mr.
extra.
Keeler.
I hope so.
Do you want to give that to the clerk?
I'm
to
sorry?
make it part of the record?
Yeah, let me
Handouts?
just get organized, and I'll. Should I give it to the?
Please give him to the clerk.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
If there's anything different than you just described giving to the clerk, please also let us know so we
Sure.
put things in a record that we know what they are. Thank you. To the representative of the city, thank you very much.
Sure. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. Brett Schneider, Outside Labor Counsel for the City of Delray Beach. Can you all hear me okay?
Hear you fine. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm going to be presenting the city manager's recommendations for resolving the impasse. And so we have a PowerPoint which I will work through. But before I even get into it, and I know this has already been discussed procedurally, but just to remind everyone what we're here to do today. The purpose of this hearing is for this commission to conduct a hearing which allows the parties to explain their positions on the items at impasse and advise the commission on why they believe the commission should impose each party's respective positions. And at the end of this hearing, the commission will need to take such action as it deems to be in the public interest, including the interest of the public employees, as has been mentioned. And I also think it's important at the beginning to explain to you what happens after this hearing, so you understand sort of where we go from here. So what the statute says, and this is governed by 447, 403 Florida statutes, following the resolution of the disputed impasse issues by the legislative body today, the parties shall reduce in writing an agreement which includes those issues that have already been addressed and agreed to by the parties, as well as the issues that you impose at today's proceeding. Then that agreement will be submitted to the public employer and to the public employees who are members of the bargaining unit for a ratification vote. So it's still conceivable that after today, the items that you impose are added to the rest of an agreement and it is ratified for a 3-year term. But what you have to keep in mind is if that ultimate agreement that comes out of today is not ratified, whatever you impose today is only valid for 1 year from the expiration of the prior agreement, which was September 30th of 2024, and we would be the new status quo beyond September 30, 2025 until the parties negotiate something to the contrary. So again, just to make sure you all understand context here. So getting into the presentation, just wanted to give you sort of an overview of the timeline and where we stand. So negotiations for a successor agreement between the city and the PBA as to both the officers and sergeants and the lieutenants units commenced in June 2024. As a reminder, your officers and sergeants unit has approximately 150 positions, and the lieutenants unit has approximately 9 positions. There are, as you've heard and as you've seen, there are 4 open issues. They are fitness for duty testing, drug testing, wages, and pension. The PBA declared impasse in these negotiations, and as a result, we had a hearing before a neutral special magistrate back in May. After the hearing, the parties submitted post-hearing briefs, and the special magistrate issued his recommendations in July. Both sides had the opportunity to review and either accept or reject the recommendations. On behalf of the city, we rejected all 4 of the recommendations. The PBA rejected just the wage recommendation. So again, I already sort of touched upon this at the beginning. This is just a reminder of the process and what you need to do at today's proceedings, so I'll skip ahead. And let me also just mention for the record, we have distributed to you all a binder which contains 13 exhibits. Most of these you've already seen before, but to the extent they're relevant as I proceed through the presentation, I will try to point you in the direction of which exhibits are pertinent. Okay, so let's talk about the recommendations from the special magistrate. And again, this is a neutral magistrate that was selected jointly by the parties. As you heard from Mr. Keeler, one of the issues that was addressed or that was bargained over was psychological fitness for duty testing. So we have a management rights article in both contracts between the city and the PBA that, among other things, says that the city has the right to compel an officer to submit to a physical fitness for duty test. So in other words, if there's reason to believe that an officer is not physically capable of performing his or her job duties, the city could send them to a neutral physician to get evaluated. There is no reference to psychological fitness for duty testing. We've had some discussion with the PBA where they've said they don't disagree that we can have psychological fitness for duty testing, but then there have been instances historically where the city has attempted to submit people to psychological fitness for duty testing and has been challenged. So for the sake of clarity, we want to make sure that the city has the ability to have an officer evaluated psychologically if there is a concern about the officer's psychological well-being. And I'm doing these in order by article. So that's Article 8. The second issue is Article 10, and we'll get into the specifics, but as you heard from Mr. Keeler, the recommendation from the magistrate was to adopt the city's wage proposal, not the union's wage proposal. The third issue, pension, the magistrate recommended that the parties adopt the union's pension proposal, and I just want to make sure we all understand what we're talking about here. So the union has essentially two pension proposals. One is an extension to the drop plan. The other is a change in the use of 185 money that we receive from the state. Currently, the drop program is 5 years. The union has requested to extend the drop to 8 years with two caveats. One is that if an officer remains in the drop beyond 5 years, they would contribute 3% of their pay to the plan during that period, whereas they have zero contribution in the first 5 years. And the other thing is that there's a cost of living adjustment that officers are entitled to receive on their pension. That cost of living adjustment would be delayed while somebody is in the drop. So that's piece one. Piece two is 185 money use, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit more detail. But currently, the city has the ability to use all 185 money it receives. It's split though, and this gets very technical. Every year the city gets a bill from the actuary, and one piece of the bill is here's how much the city has to pay for this year, and then another piece is here's how much the city has to attribute to the unfunded liability of the plan. So all of the dollars that the city currently gets from the state, the city uses, and it's split between those two purposes. So the city has all of that money. And then finally, on drug testing, the magistrate indicated that the city's position should be adopted, which is that we should have a contractual provision that allows the city to mandate drug testing anytime there is an accident at work. So again, you heard Mr. Keeler say they don't agree to that, although throughout bargaining we proposed this and they were not willing to agree to that proposal. So let's get into the specifics. So the psychological fitness for duty testing, the city manager recommends imposing the city's proposal with a slight modification as recommended by the special magistrate. So initially we had just added language making it clear that the city had the right to do psychological fitness for duty testing. The magistrate suggested some additional language that put some guardrails around that testing. We are fine with that language. So in other words, if you see the slide before you, what is underlined is the new language that we are proposing, which would allow for psychological fitness for duty testing, and has this guardrail that says the testing has to be consistent with, shown to be job related and consistent with business necessity, which is fine. We would never submit somebody for testing where those factors don't apply. Wages. So I think some context and some history is important here. So first of all, just so everyone understands what the status quo is on wages, you have a step pay plan, which essentially means that for the most part, until an officer tops out, they are receiving approximately a 5% pay increase on their anniversary date. In addition, we have proposed cost of living adjustments, and so typically you get your step until you're topped out on your anniversary date. You get a cost of living adjustment on October 1 of each year. The city's proposal as of January of 2025 was essentially a more traditional COLA with continuation of step proposal. So we had proposed COLAs of 5% on October 1, 2024, 4.5% on October 1, 2025, and 4.5% on October 1, 2026, as well as the continuation of step increases. So if you think about it like this, any officer who's not topped out is essentially getting 10% pay increase in year 1, 9.5% pay increase in year 2, 9.5% pay increase in year 3. I don't know anyone in the private sector who's getting increases annually that are anything like those increases, but that's the city's proposal. The projected cost of the city's proposal over 3 years is $15.2 million. The union's proposal follows the same structure, except its cost of living adjustments are 5% October 1, 2024, 10% October 1, 2025, and 5% on October 1, 2026. Now, it seems as though the PBA has modified their wage proposal, so this may now be have now been superseded by what Mr. Keeler proposed today, but that was what the wage proposal was throughout the majority of bargaining. The cost of that proposal, $16.656 million. And again, just to give context, that proposal would essentially amount to a 10% increase in year 1, 15% increase in year 2, 10% increase in year 3. So on February 18th, 2025, Mr. Kazanjian, the PBA president, who is here today with us, came to a commission meeting and spoke for several minutes and criticized the city for how low its starting pay and pay in general is relative to the market. And what happened? We listened. We listened to what Mr. Kazanjian said, and we took another look at our pay plan. And what we decided to do after Mr. Kazanjian's comments was to modify the city's proposal. And essentially what we did is we took that $15.2 million of money that had been allocated in the original proposal and said, it's clear we have issues at the bottom end of our pay plan that are causing some degree of attrition. So let's take that money and reallocate it in a way that's going to give officers more money immediately, and it's going to put more money, going to give more money on a percentage basis to officers at the lower end of the pay scale, the ones that are predominantly the ones leaving or the ones we need to hire who are looking at the market and saying our wages are low in the market. So essentially, we front-loaded the increases for officers and sergeants in the first year. And what you'll see is it varies depending on where you are in the pay plan, but the increases are generally for officers between 7.75% and 18%. And that's on top of the step. So we put significant money in the first year to address these issues. And then we proposed 3% COLAs in year 2 and 3 because we had used money that was allocated in year 2 and 3 in year 1. And then obviously a continuation of step increases on anniversary dates. Lieutenants' adjustments are more straightforward. It's just 5% in year 1, 3% in year 2, and 3% in year 3, with the continuation of step increases on anniversary dates. And we don't think there's any doubt that our proposal is, and the magistrate himself found this, is going to do much more good in terms of helping to stave off additional resignations and to help us be more competitive in recruiting new officers. This is the pay plan that we currently have proposed. I know it's a little complicated. There's a lot of moving parts here, but you can see that the officers' pay plan is at the top, sergeants in the bottom left-hand corner, lieutenants in the bottom right-hand corner. And when we talk about POAA and POBA, you have two different ranges. One is for an associate's degree and one is for a bachelor's degree. So you can see at the top, that would be the pay plan that would be in effect in the current fiscal year. Second down is next fiscal year. Third down is the third fiscal year, and likewise for sergeants and lieutenants. And again, this is the exact pay plan that Special Magistrate Young recommended that the parties adopt. I want to address, and Mr. Keeler mentioned this, I wanted to address resignations. And so what we have done here is we have had HR run a report showing all resignations of police officers essentially since July of 2024, but limited to just resignations where officers went to competitive agencies in this geographic area. Mr. Keeler had mentioned that there may be a few more. We don't dispute that, but there were 3 or 4 that either relocated to a different location or left law enforcement altogether. So there's no data that suggests that pay would have had anything to do with those people leaving. They moved or went into different lines of business. So what you can see from this chart is it reflects that you have 20 officers who have left in roughly the last year, 18 of them to PBSO, 1 to Martin County Sheriff's Office, and 1 to Broward Sheriff's Office. And what we think is most compelling about this is when you look at the chart, there are columns for months of service and years of service. Those are the amount of time that these officers worked for the city of Delray Beach before you left. And what you can see is, with only 2 or 3 exceptions, all of these officers left here in the first 3 or 4 years of employment. And so what does that tell us? That tells us that you have an issue with keeping the younger officers. Officers who are here for 10 years are vested in your pension plan. They're much less likely to leave. They're typically topped out or very close there too in your pay plan. The issue that we are having, and this clearly shows this, is a number of young officers seeing other agencies pay way more at the lower end and saying, I'm not vested in my pension plan, I'm gonna go to greener pastures. And so that's the issue that the city is most focused on trying to resolve. And again, this is part of your, this is part of the binder, so you have this in front of you. It's Exhibit 12. I know this is hard to read. We've handed you, you can look at this, which Mr. Weber had provided to you. It's a hard copy that's somewhat easier to read. And what this does is this shows where the city's proposal and where the union's proposal, at least the union's proposal up until today, put each side relative to the market that was studied by Mr. Weber. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Weber to just sort of give you a quick overview of what this shows. So, Paul, take it away.
Basically what this shows is the base salaries of each agency.
Can you explain that that our city is the yellow, correct?
Yes, so
Thank
the
you.
city's
So when
wage
people are
proposal is
looking
in
at it, they
yellow,
can't read.
and the PBA's wage proposal is in peach.
Thank you.
So, and this was the wage proposal that was submitted, or we went to the magistrate hearing with. So what I'm showing you is what our wage proposal is, our base salaries. And I only compared base salaries. I didn't include career officer pay or any incentive pays that other agencies may pay, because it's too hard to define when they get them, when they come up in their tenure. So if you see in year 1 of our contract, when I compare the 18 agencies that are on the list, our minimum starting salary with the bachelor's degree is ranked 3rd out of the 18 agencies that I used to compare. In year 2 of the contract, we're still ranked 3rd, and then in year 3 of the contract, we're ranked 6th. If you look at the PBA's proposal in the first 3 years of the contract, we're 16, 12, and 9, and that's just on our starting pay. If you look at the sergeant scale, which is in the middle, we're ranked number 5. PBA's ranked 7. We're ranked 4 in year 2. I'm sorry, PBA's ranked 4 in year 2. The city's ranked 7 in year 2. And in year 3, the PBA is ranked 3, and we're ranked 8. And then you can see in the last column will be the lieutenants. Just as a caveat here, I compared Boynton doesn't have lieutenants. They have captains that serve in the same role as lieutenants in our agency. So Boynton's captains are listed in there. They're ranked in 3 in year 1, and 6 in year 2, and 3 in year 3. Again, our city is ranked 5 with our proposal for years 1 and 2 and 3. The PBA's proposal, the lieutenants are ranked 6, 3, and 2. And that's just in their starting pay.
Thank you, Paul. And It's just the other side of the chart that Paul just went through.
So on the second side of the chart that I'm going to go through, this is the maximum salaries. This is where we stand compared to our competitor agencies on our maximum salaries. In year one of the contract, the PBA's proposal, they're ranked at 8. Our proposal is ranked at 9. In year two, the PBA's proposal, maximum salary is ranked at 3. We're ranked at 11. And then in year 3 of the contract, the PBA's proposal is ranked at 2, and the city's proposal ranked at 10. As you see, as the contract years go on, we start losing some of competitor agencies because they haven't negotiated new contracts for that, and their old contract expired. So I'm sure in the next proposal, everybody will adjust by at least 1, because we're sure Boca will still be number 1. And then so forth for the sergeant's proposal in the middle column and the lieutenant's column and the third column.
So I think what, just in summary, what this shows us is, there's been a lot of chatter about, how low the city's pay is supposedly, and you had Mr. Kazanjian come to your meeting and complain about it. But when you look at the actual data, you can see that our proposal is extremely competitive. It really helps us out in the first year, but even in the out years, we're still in the top half of the agencies that we are comparing ourselves to. So again, we think this proposal makes a lot of sense and keeps us competitive in the market. So let me just close out the wage presentation with the following. So first of all, and I think Mr. Keeler pointed this out, this is from the Special Magistrate's report. What he says is the facts support that the city's wage proposal better addresses the significant problem of attracting and retaining officers than does the PBA proposal, and the resolution of this problem is certainly in the best interest of the public. So the magistrate has specifically addressed the issue we are most concerned about and has clearly indicated that the city's proposal is far better. And then let me explain to you why additional reasons why we think our proposal makes a lot more sense. The union's wage proposal does not increase starting pay sufficiently to make the city competitive with other agencies. The union's wage proposal does not sufficiently address the issues we've had with attrition over the last year. Again, the city responded to what Mr. Kazanjian himself had said, and we adjusted our position to address what we perceived as concerns being raised by the PBA itself, and yet the union maintained a higher wage proposal for their senior members, ignoring the pleas of their own president before you. So one of the interesting takeaways, and you'll see this on the pension issue as well, is while it's obvious that we are struggling at the lower end with attracting and retaining talent, the PBA's proposals are really focused primarily on helping senior officers, providing them with more pension benefits and providing them with higher pay, and really doesn't address the real issues that we all see as the issues between the parties. Finally, pension. City manager recommends the status quo on pension. And so I know I mentioned this earlier, but just again to refresh your recollection, the issues we're talking about here, the status quo is the following on the drop. It's currently 5 years with no employee contribution, and the cost of living and the pension increases start after an employee's 25th anniversary, so they can they don't have to wait to receive their COLA depending on where they are in their drop. And then Chapter 185 premium tax revenues, again, you've heard about this. This is money you get from the state. The amount you received last year was $1.114 million. And as I indicated before, a little over half, $606,000, which is the base amount. The city has the right, per mutual consent with the union, to use that money to offset its annual pension contribution. And then the other amount, the $507,000, is what the city uses by mutual consent to pay down its unfunded liabilities. So that entire amount is used by the city to offset its pension obligations. What is the union's proposal? You've heard about this, but just to recap, they want to extend the drop from 5 to 8 years, with members contributing 3% of salary during months 61 to 96, and with members not receiving a cost of living adjustment in their pension while they are in the drop. And the union also wants to change the use of 185 money, and what their proposal would do is it would allow the city to continue to use the base amount, which is the 606 in change to offset its contribution. But that additional amount, the 507 and change, would now be split 50-50, with half of that being used by the city to offset its contribution, and the other half being allocated to a share plan. But they specifically said the share plan would go to retirees. So this is money that they wanted to give to people who don't even work for the city anymore, retired officers. And why should the union proposal be rejected? Couple things, and I'm going to also reference the actuarial report on this in a moment. There's added additional costs for retaining highly paid senior employees that would not even be reflected in an actuarial report. The actuary just looks at the cost of the pension, but obviously, you don't have to be a mathematician to understand that an officer who's there 25 years costs more than a brand new officer at starting pay. Having people stick around longer also can limit promotional opportunities. There's people in high ranked positions that are here longer. It stunts promotional growth. And then I think this is one of the most important things, and Mr. Keeler neglected to mention this, the cost savings. There is cost savings according to the actuary of the drop proposal, but those cost savings are less than the loss of the 185 money that the city would otherwise be receiving over the next 30 years to offset the unfunded liabilities. So it's actually a net negative to the city. And if I could just refer you to Exhibit 9, this is an actuarial study done by Gabriel Roeder-Smith, Jeff Ambrose, that Mr. Keeler had mentioned before. He is the actuary for the plan, and he is the one who testified at the special magistrate's hearing. And specifically, what I want to draw your attention to, this study addresses the exact proposals that are before you today. If you flip to the last page,
What page is it?
it's Exhibit 9, and it's the very last page. And you're going to probably need reading glasses. It's a whole lot of numbers, and I'll help you sort of orient yourselves to this. So when you look at this, what it shows is the first 5 or 6 columns, that shows you what your baseline is, basically what you're paying for now. And I think one thing that's important to note is currently, without any changes, the city's annual required contribution to fund the police pension plan is $8.5 million. And what's even more important is that amounts to 56.8% of covered payroll. In other words, for every dollar of salary you're paying an officer, you're having to put 57 cents in their pension. So what the actuary shows here is, if you look at all the columns on the second half of the page, but not the very last column, which says projected state contributions, what it shows is that if you just adopted the union's drop proposal, Mr. Keeler is correct. The actuary says the savings over 30 years to the city would be $26.7 million, the present value of which is $6.1 million. So sure, that looks great. But what it doesn't take into account is the very last column on here, which is these are the amounts of 185 money that the city would expect to receive each year that would now, based on the union's proposal, no longer go to the city to offset its payment to the unfunded liability, would now be distributed to retirees. And you can see the totals, $29.7 million over 30 years, present value of which is $9.83 million. So you can see that is a net loss to the city over 30 years. One other point I wanted to make, and I don't want to get bogged down in this, but the rules about how 185 money works are different than regular bargaining rules. And Mr. Keeler mentioned there is a statute, it's section 185.35 of Florida statutes that talks about this. And what it says is that the parties have the right to mutually consent to how this money is used. And the important language, it says, such mutually agreed deviation, this is the consent on how we use the money, must continue until modified or revoked by subsequent mutual agreement. Right. That means that you can't change the use unless both sides agree. So they've made the argument that they can just revoke their mutual consent, but the statute clearly says subsequent mutual consent. So Mr. Keeler and Mr. Ambrose have argued, oh yeah, this means that either party can revoke their consent. That's their opinion. There's no case law on this. At some point, it will be challenged. Maybe it'll be here. But I think the language is very clear, subsequent mutual consent. You can't have mutual consent with one side saying yes and one side saying no. So finally, on drug testing, this is simple and straightforward. We have drug testing currently for officers pre-employment, annual physicals, reasonable suspicion, and random. We don't have a provision for post-accident testing in the contract. All other city employees have mandatory post-accident testing. I know Mr. Keeler today says they don't really have an issue with it, we can do it, but that's not what they've said throughout bargaining. We think this is an easy one. We want consistency across the board. We want to make sure officers aren't using illicit substances in driving their vehicles. And we think it provides a better understanding of the role of substances in employee accidents. Next steps, I already mentioned before, this is what happens after today. And with that, obviously, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that sums up our proposal.
Just a quick point of clarity.
Yeah.
I'm just very confused about something. The proposal that you stated as the recommendation does not reflect the most recent proposal by this commission. So I'm very confused by that. Because our most recent proposal did propose an 8-year drop.
So
But that was our proposal, and it's now being publicly stated as the position of this city. It is not the most current position of this commission.
I think we decide that today.
Right, so after we had our last executive session, I spoke with Mr. Keeler. I communicated that we would be willing to do that. I was told that that wasn't going to get the deal done. Obviously, for today, you have every right to adopt a motion that would adopt that proposal. But for purpose of the impasse hearing, we have stuck with what has been communicated throughout the process because we were told that that proposal wasn't going to resolve the impasse. So.
It just makes no sense to me if we're going through negotiations and we moved the ball considerably further down the field towards the end result, why we would ignore that and go back to zero for the point of this meeting. Why did we spend months negotiating this? That makes no sense to me.
If I can jump in just for a second as a lawyer, so to speak, I'm trying to be fair to everything. You make an offer and acceptance, and then if there's a counteroffer, what you've made before it's off the table.
Right.
So it all gets reset. So we did 8 months were for nothing?
I don't think anything's worth nothing. I'm saying that if
Okay, I just want to put on the record then, in that case, that what is being stated as the proposal, the recommendation from the city does not reflect the most recent consensus from this commission. Because this is what the public's seeing.
Mayor, can I just make a point?
Yeah, I explained the nuance.
So,
Thank you.
We needed to be consistent with what was relayed to Tallahassee, what our position has been all along. Yes, the commission did direct staff to make a counteroffer. It was not accepted.
Right.
And so there's nothing that precludes the commission today from imposing whatever you deem appropriate. You can remain the status quo or you can offer the 8-year drop. But at the end of the day, we need to be consistent, and I'm just going to remind everybody that you are sitting up here, and it's a different role than you had when we were in our executive sessions. Right. This is a role of an arbiter as a judge. And just like Mr. Keeler reminded you earlier, you have to maintain some level of fairness to both sides even before you begin your discussions, right? So I understand what you're saying. There's nothing that precludes you from having that discussion today. But at the end of the day, we needed to maintain the positions that we've had all along on this for clarity and for accuracy. But there's nothing that would preclude you from just having a discussion with your colleagues today, and you can impose a 6, 7, 8-year drop, or you can maintain the status quo.
And just to be clear, just to make sure it's on the record, the proposal that we were authorized to make after the last executive session, which I did communicate to Mr. Keeler, was essentially agreeing to the drop proposal that the union had made, but not to the 185 proposal, just so that's on the record and everybody knows that that was communicated to the union.
Which was rejected.
Which was, yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing on the table in that
Right.
regard. Okay, that's how I understood things in law school as well.
But this is a public hearing, and I think that's critical information, so thank you.
Where am I on my list here? Hold on, I got my list.
Okay.
I followed the list here. The city, okay. Now we have discussion and comments and questions by the commission. The commission now has the floor to deliberate, comment, or ask questions during the disputed impasse issues. So you don't have none of us have time limits, so
Okay.
I'm hoping
I'll try to go
we
super
respect
quick.
everybody else's time limits and
Yeah.
day. But would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So, thank you, both for the presentations, very thoughtful, and I appreciate them. I would like to just ask a couple of questions and then maybe make a short statement. I appreciate that the PBA is willing to.
Just for clarification, we are allowed to ask representatives of both, right,
Yeah.
for questions.
Yes,
So that's okay.
right.
I just want to make sure that
So,
we can do that.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor,
Go
for
ahead.
that. I appreciate that the willingness to accept the fitness for duty and the drug testing. From the beginning, it seemed odd to me that the PBA was not amenable to those. That seemed sort of natural under the circumstances. When you reference places like Boynton and Boca, I believe they have assessments on their residents in addition to the taxes that they pay to pay for those services, their safety services. Is that correct? Do you know that? You don't know the answer to that? It is. Okay. When you,
Are you asking me a question?
I'm asking if you know that. I believe
this
that to
on?
be the case. Yes.
Is there a question, or you have your answer already?
I think I know the answer. If
Okay.
you,
I think
if
it's all
you-
paid from the general fund, just
Okay.
like the city of Delray Beach.
No, I think they have an assessment. City want to speak to that?
For,
It doesn't
for
matter.
police services, no. But you do pay for about 11 officers from your CRA.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about our fund. Forget it. Just scratch that question. You had a slide up where you said to hire, train officers that we're losing at $361,820. You're including their salary in that cost? How did you break that down? So that's not, I don't believe that's
So
our
I can
understanding.
go through that. I ran out of time. I'm pretty long-winded, so I couldn't really get through everything.
Wasn't intentional, as I said. I'm just trying to keep everybody to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I charge by the minute, so.
Well, you actually owe him 40 seconds because he came in 10
I was
seconds.
disappointed
under.
you gave me
Talk
30
faster.
minutes. You're really hurting my. I'm joking. So I based this off of we had this done by the city. Actually prepared this. I think the city has it, and it's going to be part of the record. But we include we break it down between a bachelor's and an associate's, the academy, the uniform, the equipment, the vest, the carrier, the duty weapon, academy salary. So that answers your question when they're in the academy. The FTO average cost. When they're in the academy, by the way, they're not a member of the bargaining unit. I should just clarify that.
Right.
Their classification is not police officer. It's trainee or whatever they call it here. First year sworn, second year sworn, 5 months of third year. So yeah.
So
I
you're
think it
including
does-
their salary, but there's a benefit to us for the 3 years that they're here. It's not, that loss is not, it's not, we don't lose $361,000. They've worked for us. They've provided us a benefit. Thank you.
I guess it's experience is what we're talking about. It's
Understood what
experience
you're
going
saying,
out
but
the
I'm
door,
saying that number
opportunity.
sounds like a flat out number, and that's not.
There's opportunity cost too. That's an employee
I
that
am
you're
not
losing.
disputing it with you. I just wanted clarification for the
Sure.
residents. That's a big number. That's not the number if you look at what they provided us.
I'm putting this in the record though.
Thank you.
This is prepared by the city. So
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
When you said there was 40, were you just sitting on 40 million of unassigned fund balance? That's not an accurate piece of information because we have a policy that we need to maintain reserves of 21%, which is approximately at that 40 million. It's 39 point something depending on the year's expenses. So that money is not freed up to just lateral over. And, you know, that's for our residents to understand because they may be saying, well, what the heck, if we have 40 million, give it to them. We don't have $40 million sitting around to hand over. And speaking of 40 million, and I want to say this delicately because I want our officers to be happy to come to work every day. And I want them to feel appreciated. But at the beginning, when you guys walked in the door, what was the request, gentlemen? 47 million increase from last contract? That's substantial. That's not even reasonable. It never really felt to me like this is bargaining in good faith. I would, you know, these charts are really telling. When you're saying we're getting messaging, pay your people, your contract isn't good. This yellow line is what we're offering. It's higher than PBA. I mean, we are trying up here we have been trying. And some of the messaging that's coming out has not suggested that there has been an effort to come to a conclusion. And to speak to the actuary report, and I appreciate that our representative did that. Understanding that report, I didn't even want that report because you know, based on the scenarios they're using, that it's going to come out and say something that's favorable.
There was unanimous agreement to ask
Yeah.
for that report.
I understand. No, it wasn't unanimous, but that I didn't. I
But
said
that's false.
I said we didn't need the report.
You
'cause
said you
know-
didn't want it. You agreed to it at the time.
Excuse me, I'm talking. It's my
If
time.
I'm saying lies, you can interrupt me too.
Everyone's
you
got that.
can
You
say
can,
what you want.
You can rebut later
It's
on.
fine.
Please, we're going to stick to the rules here.
Back to the report, if I may. Knowing the scenarios that are utilized to come to the conclusion, you know it's going to come out the way it comes out. But you would agree that if you take that 3%, the employee contribution, and you change that so there's no 3% contribution, then that report totally changes, correct?
I actually don't think so. I think
Yes.
if there's no employee contribution, I didn't bring
That's
an
what I'm
actuarial
saying.
study
If
with
you,
me.
no, the scenario allows for a 3%
Yes,
contribution.
so to answer your
if
question,
if
what I'm-
if we change this contract in a year, when we get back to the table, or the next time we're at the table, and that changes, then that whole savings that is reported in this, which is not even a savings, as we now know, changes completely.
He could correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a study done that there was
It doesn't assess risks.
no contribution of the employees during the 3-year extension, and it results in a wash. It's actually, you save money as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. That actual study was done.
I'm saying under the scenario presented, yes,
Yeah, where they agree to
but
pay
it
3%.
changes.
They actually agree to give you, to pay money into it.
Right,
There's a
but if
scenario
next
they
time
don't
around
pay
they
and you
say
save
we're
money.
not paying that 3%, say the next contract. Understand what I'm saying? That happens, it changes the whole number. So this number is a moment in time that can change in the next contract. And it says examples of risks that could happen, that are things that can't be considered in this: investment risks, contribution risks, that's the one I was just talking about, salary and payroll risks, right? Longevity risks, because these pensions last the person's entire life, and then I believe if they pass, their spouse is entitled to some percent. Is it 65% perhaps? And then other possible risks. So none of the risks are assessed in this. So while I appreciate you referencing that report, I'm just saying it's not something that you can really rely on long term. And so I am inclined to go with the city's recommendation here, which is status quo. Fitness for duty, adding the additional language, wages, the city's proposal, pension, 5-year drop, no 185, drug testing. I'm going with the city's proposal on all of those. Thank you. And I appreciate that the city is putting forth recommendations to us.
We're going to Commissioner Longo. Would you like to go first?
Oh, sure, I can go. So first of all, I want to say, louder.
No, we're just.
Oh, I was going to say. I want to say congratulations to Chief Sims. Chief Darrell Hunter.
Yes.
Looking forward to your continued leadership, because you've shown that. I also want to say that to our officers, that the work you do cannot be measured in dollars and cents, in my opinion. No salary or contract could ever value the work and the risk that you take on a daily basis, and I appreciate each and every one of you.
Please. We're supposed to be judges up here, so let's pretend this is a court of law. So we don't clap, right? We don't talk.
So our duty is to balance a fair contract for our officers, and also have a fiscal responsibility to our residents. And I actually thought that our counteroffer was a fair offer, and it was the one that I just learned that was not presented. After 8 months of negotiations, I think that it is time that we close this and that we come to an agreement that's fair for everyone. Our residents expect a police department that is fully staffed and motivated and supported. We need that as our city. I've heard 100 times that we're the best police department, not just in the city, in the state, and for me, the country. I've been here 61 years, and I appreciate what we have, and I think we need to give our officers what they need to operate and protect our city. I am prepared to go with the offer, the counter offer. I don't know. May I ask a question? There was a 600,000 difference. Is that what I heard? 600,000 difference in the offer. Is that the offer that was presented today? That's not the offer that.
So we had sent an offer in the recommendation, which we presented that to council. He referenced us, I guess, declining the 8-year drop extension, but it wasn't in the sunshine, wasn't a bargaining session, and it was referenced that we would be proposing, and we did propose our wages that you saw here today, and we were told thanks but no thanks.
And may I ask the back side of this? What were the figures on the back side of this? Were the numbers where we were further down?
So the back side represents the maximum salary range.
Okay, maximum.
The city's offer is in yellow, and the PBA's offer or proposal is in orange. And that's on the maximum end of the salaries.
All right, thank you.
If I could just make a point here, and I appreciate what you said, and you said, it would be better before you say where you're supporting and where you're not supporting is to wait for all of the comments to be made so that you can take all the evidence into consideration before one renders what they think is the right, because I may say something, or Commissioner Long may say something that changes your mind, or Mr. Market. Sorry about that, Tom. I forgot you. You're in the box there in the corner.
Oh, you're good.
Thank
You're
you.
good.
So that's all.
Okay,
I'm
that's fine.
suggesting.
It's a good
is
recommendation.
that I'd like to keep it, the rendering of any judgment, or until all
You're right.
the
Okay.
presentations have been made, and those include the presentations of your colleagues and questions that they may ask to the
Well,
various
I don't-
representatives.
Okay, with that said, then I'll hold off on what my recommendation would be, but.
That would be great.
I just think that today we need to come to an agreement, and.
Well, there's going to be an agreement one way or another today, whether
At that point, I'll
as
close my.
as outlined by both council with what our options are going to be.
All right, thank you.
So, Commissioner Long, do you want to go next? Or do you want to get Mr. Market go, who's sitting there?
I'd like to go if
Okay.
that's okay. If
Stand
you don't
by,
mind,
Tom.
Commissioner Marker.
I knew you'd do that, Rob.
Your ladies first, but I got to go now, man.
Yeah.
So I want to make a quick point, and I'm going to be very blunt, and am in no way disparaging anyone in this room. This process is idiotic. We have been tied to a process now for months that has made this so much harder than it should be. And the fact that we came in here today, starting at ground zero, it makes zero sense to me after we spent months on this. I'm not blaming anyone. I know that you guys are held to certain technical issues in terms of what we have to send to the state, et cetera. This process sucks. It's terrible. So, that being said, I am going to go over my positions on some of these things because we already figured them out in the negotiations, the closed sessions that we've already had. This is our first chance we've been able to even talk about this publicly and sit in the same room with you guys. How the hell are we supposed to negotiate anything in those terms? It makes zero sense to me. So going forward, I'd love it if we could find another way to do this. This is ridiculous. So anyway, we already sorted a lot of this stuff out with the proposal we made on July 22nd. Article 8. We agreed with the magistrate's recommendation, which the PBA agrees with. Article 29 and 27. We agreed with the magistrate's recommendation. Now, Article 12, we agreed, 3 of us agreed, which is a consensus, to the 8-year drop. We did not have consensus to move forward on changing the 185 funds. To me, the main, and that was per the advice of our counsel, by the way. To me, the point where we should be starting the discussion based on the perceived progress that I thought we had made is with wages, is with Article 10. Like, to me, it makes no sense to spend months negotiating and have a consensus that it is agreed to get it this much closer to an end result, and then pretend none of that happened in the public setting. So to me, the conversation needs to be focused on wages. Everything else has been hashed out. I know that the proposal was rejected, but based on the proposals we had before that, I think that we have some common ground here. And why would we not emphasize and focus on the main thing here, which is wages? I'm inclined to meet the PBA halfway with wages. I think that it is problematic that we don't have uniformity among the steps. However, there are some issues with this. Maybe that comes down to tightening up the range. I don't want our competitiveness to drop in the first year. That is an issue, especially now, given the landmark amount of attrition that we've had in the last few months. We have no choice but to address starting wages, if we ever did. But we still have to address the second and third year officers, or we're going to just bring people in, train them for a year when we can't even deploy them, and then lose them to other agencies. So we have to address this. It makes no sense not to. I don't know what the exact answer is. I'm inclined to lean in towards what Boynton Beach is doing. We should at least be able to compete with Boynton Beach. So that's where I'm at. I'm settled on Article 8, 27, and 29, and half of 12. Actually, I am settled on that. I agree with the 8-year drop. I'm not on board with the 185 fund change. That's where I'm at. That's where I was last time when we made the proposal. Article 10, that's what we should be focused on here today. Done.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Markert.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to come in remotely. I apologize.
They don't have you on
my,
screen. We're the only ones who can see you. We can see you fine. I think they should have put you on the big screen, Tom, myself, but that's just me.
I can tell you I'm a really good-looking guy, and you're going to really enjoy what I have to say. Rob's laughing at me.
No, and you're not
okay.
under oath. Don't worry. You can say that stuff, so don't worry about it.
As long as I see Rob laughing, I'm good. So a couple things for me, and look, I'm thank you for allowing me to come in. I'm at my nephew's wedding in upstate New York. It's freezing cold up here, but enjoying it. So a couple of things that I'm concerned about. I saw the number on the $40 million in reserves, and I've been extremely vocal as a commissioner about reserves going forward. I think we have to preserve those given all the risks that we have in the budget and with some of the other things that I've talked about in the past. So I don't want to go into the reserves. I think that's bad. I will say one of the things that I found difficult, and I'm a new commissioner, it's very hard to hold the high ground as a commissioner. We haven't put our story in our story, I mean the city's story, out into the public. We've held the high ground on that. I applaud us for doing it. It's the right thing to do. But one of the reasons that communities around us have adopted fire and political taxes is that winds up letting the public know how much this is actually going to cost each resident as a taxpayer. I didn't see the wisdom of that when we discussed it a long time ago. I do see the wisdom of it now. But again, we've held the high ground. I'm proud of us for doing that, and I think that's good. I want to address people leaving jobs. People leave jobs for lots of reasons. First jobs are usually quick. And if we all go back and look at our first jobs, I bet you we didn't stay too long either. Yep, money comes into it, no doubt about that. But opportunity comes into it, marriage comes into it, kids come into it, but also job content comes into it. And we have to address this, I think, in our police department. I talked to Russ Major about it, and congratulations, Daryl Hunter. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it with some of the things that we looked at in the corporate world with first-time jobs. There's a lot that we can do, but when I saw some of the numbers that got presented today, it didn't surprise me, that people with a year or two of experience were leaving for other jobs. That number's usually really pretty high, but since it got put on the table by the union, we're going to have to start monitoring that now going forward and figuring out ways, perhaps besides money, that we can retain employees at those levels. We'll have to figure that out. And Chief Hunter, I'd love to spend a little bit of time with you and talk to you about that. I agree with what Rob said. You know, we did agree to the 8-year drop. That was a big deal for the city to agree to do that. We did agree to it. I'm glad we agreed to it. I think it makes us very competitive based on all the data that was presented so eloquently to us over the course of this negotiations. I feel like now we are so close. I'm in favor of trying to figure out, you know, if there's one more little itty bitty thing we can do, I'd be in favor of talking about that. But I feel like we've met the lion's share of the requests. I mean, I really do feel that way. But as Rob said, yeah, I'm open. I'd be open to seeing if there's something else that we can do that isn't going to be monumental, so that we can get this closed. I love our police department. I'm so proud of the work that you do, and I just would like to see this negotiation come to a point where we all feel good about what we've done. So, Mr. Mayor, I concede.
Thank you very much. And how this is going to work, by the way, to address kind of what you talked about, is that we're going to be taking up each one of these items separately and doing a separate vote. After each motion, there will be discussion on it to try to fashion what we think the answer should be, and then we will vote on it, and then we will continue to vote until we have all 4 of the items addressed, whether passed or not passed. They will be addressed, and then it will go back to the powers that be to do whatever they do with it after we're done with it. So I'm not quite sure how that works. I have a couple of. I'm going to start by addressing a couple of the people that made comments, all of which I appreciated, and passions are very strong on this issue because we all think our police are doing a great job. So I mean that's the given. But the comments, for example, that that we're on the low end of the scale. Well, I mean, Commissioner Long was correct. There is an idiocy here, but it started with the $47 million proposal that was given to us 9 months ago. So where they knew we were in a budget battle, they knew we were trying to struggle with our taxes, and they would come with a $47 million thing. That's kind of started the process of me saying, wait a minute, whatever happened to good faith negotiations? But in any event, so early on, this matter could have been resolved, but for a couple of sticking points that we're still talking about, and we addressed the issue that everybody said about the younger officers by restructuring that pay structure in order to deal with it. So I'm going to take a little exception to people say we're at the low end. We're only at the low end because there were certain items that caused this contract not to be approved months earlier. So, in any event. So that's not quite defunding the police because we were prepared, ready, willing, and able to go forward on certainly the salary things much earlier, and that didn't happen. Regarding the comment with the police chief, I love Chief Major a lot, and I was the one who supported him staying for an additional 2 years. But let me just suggest that when he stayed those additional 2 years, it was never his intention to stay the whole time. He was waiting for his wife to retire from the Coral Gables Police. I think it was Coral Gables or Coral Springs or whatever the police department down here, and it was always intention at that point that he was going to resign and move on to somewhere else. So it's kind of disingenuous to say, well, that was because of this. No, he had a 2-year extension after the end of his drop period, and he stayed during that 2 year. Thankfully, I think I like him. Did a great job, but it was to suggest that it wasn't also part of a larger plan of his to go and do something else would not be accurate, because I had that conversation myself with him, and it related to when his wife was going to retire from the Coral Gables Police Department, where she served as a sergeant or a lieutenant or something down there. Did a great job down there from all accounts. And the last one was, these things are only pennies on a dollar. I've always struggled with that with government. Things are pennies on a dollar. It's only going to cost us pennies on a dollar. If an expenditure is not a good expenditure, the fact that you can spread it out over 10,000 people doesn't make it a good expenditure. So the fact that you say this is only going to cost us $3 million, and which you say, well, that's only $25 a piece. No, you address whether or not the expenditure itself is a good expenditure. And by the way, that's vice versa. When you want to do something, you can always say it, but it still is judging whether the expenditure itself is good. So I'm never going to be the one to say it's only going to cost someone X amount of dollars if I think the gross expenditure is not a good expenditure to start with. Okay, now, there was a key line when we did this introduction, and it was used by both council with respect to this process, and it's, that we need to do what's the best in the public interest. And the public interest also includes the public interest of the employees. But let me just say, it also includes the public interest of the public. And, I mean, we've had discussions on this 185 money, and, it's used by the city to offset the cost of our unfunded liability, which is substantial. We talk about, well, that's okay, but it's going to delay the COLA. Well, we still have to account for that in our budget. The fact that it's a delayed COLA doesn't mean we don't have to account for it. It means just to get it at the end. So it's someone else putting money into a bank account for you, that when you, at the end of 3 years, you get your bank account, that's still making the payment. I mean, let's not pretend it's somehow because you defer a cost, because you can defer your taxes, but they come due. The piper comes, and you got to pay. So just because the COLA is deferred doesn't mean it's not an obligation. And I was curious and I've been curious, and I've done some research since then regarding the analysis or the comparison analysis that's done with what Boca Raton does, or what Boynton Beach does, or what Palm Beach Gardens does. And I guess I want to suggest that Palm Beach Gardens has 128 sworn officers, a city just about our size, and so maybe they can afford to do things, so they only have 128 sworn officers. And I guess is it the PBA's view that we should reduce the number of our sworn officers so that the remaining can get paid more? I mean, we're dealing with a certain pile of money. So, that's, and we talk about, Delray Beach has what, 153 sworn officers, 155, 153, whatever that number is. Some are filled, some are not filled. But, that's our number that we put on our budget. And then you look at Boynton Beach, which has fewer. They have 144 sworn officers. So already we're at higher sworn officers than Palm Beach Garden, yet you're using them as an example of why we should raise our money, but their payroll is lower because they have fewer officers. And Boynton Beach is the same. I don't want to get into Boca Raton because to suggest that their tax base, and one of the comments talked about the different tax, comparing Boca and Boynton and the different tax bases, and saying, well, similar populations, not really. And revenues vary. Well, yeah, they do vary. Boca Raton has approximately $45 million more in ad valorem revenues than the city of Delray Beach. So, plus they have additional taxes that they charge on other items. So, that is not a fair apple to apples comparison. So that's a given for me. Attracting and retaining officers is important to me, which is why we decided to move our pay schedules to front and load them, so to speak, because those were the years when we looked at the schedule of when the police officers were leaving. And I'm not going to try to compete with an entity which has unlimited funds. The sheriff's office, they essentially have unlimited funds. They can proffer a budget to the county, which the county has to accept, although I do understand there's a lot of conversations going on about that at the moment at the county, and that will be resolved at some point, but not by this body. And you have, they don't do their training, they don't do this, and so yes, they poach from us, they poach from Boca, they poach from everybody, because they can and they do, and I wish everyone well that goes there for the pay that they get. But when you look at the actuarial, and I want to discuss the actuarial for a second, they try to do snapshot of salaries and say, well, this is this, this is this. And I gave you a little bit of an example by how many sworn officers they have, and I have a full extensive list that I'm happy to share. But the reality is no two cities are the same. So to say that just because Boca does it, just because, am I saying something? Am I going over time or something? Okay, I got the gavel. Is really just, you need to take into account the intangibles of working for a place as well. Neither Boca Raton nor Boynton Beach have, and everyone discounts it, well, that's not important, that's not important. Well, I think our wellness center, where any police officer, can walk into there with his wife, with his children, her wife, his children, whatever, walks into that things, and they have medical care. Yes, they have a pension. They can go to outside doctors, and yes, they have a deductible, just like any of us else do. But if you have employer-provided health care facility, that's typically at no cost to the employees, which is what our police officers and fire and regular city employees all have. So I think we need to, when we discuss what really the values are being pursuant to a contract, we really need to look at the full contract. And when you look at other cities who have vast extended areas to travel, and you look at our 4 miles by 4 miles in Delray Beach, it's a very different component here. We have 16 square miles to patrol. And one could argue, why do we have 155 officers to do 16 square miles, and yet others have fewer officers and to do substantially larger territory? That's a conversation for another day, and I'm not having that here. I'm going to talk for a second about the 8-year drop. Everyone says, well, it doesn't cost the city money. Doesn't cost the city money. Okay. Whether you're looking at whether the 185 balances it out and so they were actually losing money, or we do the thing and the reality was, way back in 2010, and maybe some of you officers were still here, were here then, but way back in 2010, when, and everyone should remember the period of time we went there where where the stock market was down and all the returns were bad. All the returns were bad. And the city, because it has its contribution requirement to meet a certain minimum requirement every year, the city had to reach into its own pocket, dive into reserves, as Commissioner Markert said, to dive into reserve to fulfill its obligation. Now, pension payments were still being made, salaries were still getting paid, all this stuff is still getting paid. So it's very easy for the groups that are the beneficiaries of these payments to say there's no risk. But the reality is there is a risk. It's a contingent liability, and I'm not going. They're asking me to guarantee this contingent liability that 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road, we're not going to have an economic downturn. And I don't, not to quote former Fed Chair Greenspan about the irrational exuberance, but we've had a lot of appreciation in a lot of sectors of our economy, and as history, you'll have to talk about, the history shows us corrections happen. And if the correction happens, the city's going to foot the bill. I don't think, nor would I expect the union's representatives to come back and say, don't worry, look, we'll throw back in with you. That doesn't happen. So I think that we have a lot of, if everyone's throwing around comparisons, I think we need to be fair with the comparisons. And I am going to touch on the special magistrate's report because I read it thoroughly. Now, I do read it as a lawyer, so I do understand, having been through mediation, see mediation reports, and so maybe my perspective is a little different from my colleagues. But, the underlying theme of his recommendations, and certainly as it related to the 8-year drop, was that the city can afford it. Well, the city can afford it. Now, sure, I suppose if we wanted to tax everybody, increase taxes, increase everybody's obligation, we could afford it. We're sitting at a mill of around 6%. Some are lower, some are higher, depending on who we talk to. We're allowed to go to 10. So, why don't we just tax the heck out of everybody, and we can pay everybody a lot of money, including, ourselves. But the point is, it's not whether the city can afford it. It's what is the fair number to have, considering all of the factors, including the intangible factors that the city of Delray Beach has to offer its employees. And that includes not just whether you have your wellness center, not just what you're getting for your salaries, but it also includes, being able to work in Delray Beach. Now, I understand there's challenges. I mean, trust me, I know that our police officers have to deal with a myriad of challenges, which some of the people who have discussed this beforehand, but also which I've witnessed myself. So I in fact, spoke to the chief the other day about an incident on the beach where an officer did a fabulous job in deflating a situation that could have not gone well. And I got an actual call from a resident that was so impressed by what the Delray Beach Police does. So we all know that. And, frankly, I think our police officers are among the best trained that we have in the county. And I'm happy to say that. But we're not talking about salaries. The sticking point here seems to be this 8-year drop. And I've given you my reasons why I don't think, that I think it's top heavy. I do think, 2.5 years ago, that the position was taken that we don't want to have an 8-year drop because, I'm trying to remember the quote that was given at the time, but that it arrests development and movement within the department and promotions. Well, that was good. That was the policy 2.5 years ago. I don't understand what has changed, because I noted that when the chief left and we got a new chief, there was a lot of movement within the department of people moving around. That's what happens when top level people move. there's a lot of movement in the departments. I think that is good for the younger officers, because the younger officers keep seeing, if they see no room for advancement, by the way, that is also a reason why people leave. So it's not so simple to just say, it's 8-year drops, not going to cost us anything. I've articulated why there is a risk out there. I've articulated why I'm not going to try to compete with people that I can't compete with financially. I'm not going to try to compete with municipalities that have larger space and fewer officers, uniformed officers. I mean, the non-sworn officers are kind of the same for most of them. I'm not going to again include Boca, that has everything of everything. But as again, they have so many different taxing sources which support those salaries. So I'm happy to discuss all of this. I think that I've laid out where I think. I think it's important that
Mayor, can I just interject? And I'm sorry, I'll wait till you're done, but I just want to ask for a 5-minute break. There's
Are
a
you
lot
hungry?
of commotion over here, so we just need a 5-minute break.
Would you like a 5-minute break, gentlemen?
I would make it 10 because I think
Can we
we
ma-
have to talk and maybe use the restroom. So
Yeah.
Oh, well, listen, you should have brought a little thing. I mean, you know.
Can I lay out a quick comment before we do that? Just
You may.
so everyone we can set the table for when we come back here. Because now that this is our first public time where everyone's got to lay out their platforms on us, everyone's got to say exactly where they stand. And that's fair because we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. That being said, it sounds like 3 of us are still willing to commit to at least what was in the last proposal. So, Mayor, the 8-year drop isn't still a sticking point. 3 of us have already agreed to the 8-year drop.
haven't voted.
So,
Again, we
point
haven't
is, let me finish, please.
No, I'm going to finish.
No,
because
I'm going to finish my comment, then you can respond, please, Mayor.
Sure.
I asked to have a comment. I want to finish my sentence. So, my point is, can we focus on actually negotiating instead of restating our positions when we get back? Because us just continually restating our platform and our ideology is going to get us nowhere. We spent 8 months getting nowhere.
Why
We
don't we
actually
give
made
them a
progress
break
at our
and
last
see-
meeting.
Okay, thank you.
We know what's still outstanding. Why don't we
It seems
actually
like the gentlemen
negotiate?
have been talking. Maybe they
Yes,
have an
I think-
idea.
Okay.
Let's
Look,
give
why
them
don't you
break
all- why
and
don't you
allow
all
them to speak.
Take a 5-minute break.
Thank
I
you,
will
Mayor.
only say the one thing, that one of the reasons I said people shouldn't come up with a conclusion beforehand, and the fact that he's addressing 3 conclusions that were made before I certainly made my remarks, is I'm going to assume that everybody had an open mind when I started my remarks. So as I assumed when everybody else made their remarks. So anyway, why don't
we
we
take
we're
10
going to take a
minutes?
5-minute break.
5 or 10? 10, please.
Okay, if a 48-hour break. Back here on what day are we? That's Saturday. Be back here Saturday, and it'll be
10
great.
minutes.
10 minutes. I'm sorry. I get excited. I mean, you know. Tom Market, are you on?
I am now, sir.
There you go. Okay. We are reconvening this meeting. I'm going to just finish my remarks. I only had 2 more things to go, and it's in 27 parts, so don't worry about it. The first is related to adding the language because there was not in there before and potential and some ambiguities. And I don't know what the position is, have been concluded when everybody walked out of the room, but all I'm saying is as a lawyer, I always include language in contracts. If there's any ambiguity at all or any some way someone can invoke, oh, we don't mind that at all, I always put into contracts something to make sure it's clear for anyone reading the contract what the scope of the contract covers and doesn't cover. And the second thing is, and I compliment the representative for the PBA. He's a fabulous prosecutor. I saw him in action some years ago, and as a good prosecutor and as a good defense attorney, you tell us what the portions of the stuff that we should hear, and not necessarily the full story. But I want to just one comment on one thing, and this has to do with the presentation made as it was to comparing all of the different police departments, which I was starting on before, and I'm going to let the rest of that go. But you made one point very clear, and that is, we talk about what what the Palm Beach County does, or this county does, or everyone, what this city does. But one thing that I want to underscore is that the FRA, to which some of these other departments are part of, do not include the 185 money, and the Sheriff's Department does not get the 185 money. Am I correct on that? That's a question, because they're part of FRA, so they wouldn't get the 185 money.
It's called 185 money because it references Florida Statute Chapter 185, which specifically applies to municipal pensions.
I deal in small little things here. But the answer is no, they don't get the money. And so I'm really just trying to keep the apples and apples comparison going on as it related to all the different departments. So with that said, I am now concluded my remarks, and I understand that the respective council have comments they would like to make before we go into deliberation. Does any one of you want to go first? Why don't you could sit there. Although you look better on TV when you're standing. I just thought that out.
Can you guys? Okay. So before we took the break, we were sort of texting and talking and trying to figure out if there might be some resolution here that could be palatable. And so we have something that I think the members would agree to that is pretty close to what the commission has authorized us to do to this point. The only difference would be the wages. So what I wanted to do was just put that on the record, let you guys discuss it. I've been, obviously, if we had an agreement, so we don't have to repeat this hearing, if you guys were on board, I would ask that you go ahead and vote to impose what I'm telling you. And then we ratify it, but that way if it doesn't get passed by the membership, we're done. We don't have to come back and do this again. So essentially, it would be the fitness for duty testing. Obviously, everyone's in agreement with that. It would be the drug testing. Everyone's in agreement with that. On pension, it would be the 8-year drop with on the terms that the union proposed, but no change to the 185 money, which is what we had been authorized to do before. On wages, what we would do. Oh, right, sorry. The only caveat on the drop would be that the drop change would go into effect October 1, 2026. So basically, anyone who's still employed by the city on October 1, 2026 would have the ability to have the 8-year drop. If you're in the last year right now, you're not going to be able to extend it beyond the 5. So it would start 10/1/2026.
So I retire today, and I elect to go into the drop program. It does not apply to me. If I require on October 2nd, 2026, I would be eligible.
No, it's not triggered by the day that you are able to drop. It's triggered by whether you're still employed by the city. So in other words, if somebody is in the drop right now and they're going to hit 5 years before October 1, 2026, they're gone at the end of 5 years and they cannot extend. You'd have to still be employed by the city on October 1, 2026. Even if you're 4 years and 363 days into the drop, you would be able to extend to the 8 years. But anyone who's going to hit 5 years between now and October 1, 2026 would not be able to extend.
So if you hit 4 years, then you would be able to extend.
Correct.
So if you're in the drop, I entered the drop program today. I get 5 years.
Right.
So a year and a half from now, I'll be able to extend it.
Yeah, correct.
That's what. Okay.
Correct.
That's just, thank
Correct.
you. That's,
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. And you had one more.
Oh, yeah, we got it. Okay. So wages, and this is just bear with me so I can walk you through this. On officers and sergeants, we would do the Boynton Beach officers and sergeants pay plan, which is essentially roughly between $500,000 and $600,000 more cost over 3 years than what the city currently has on the table. With lieutenants, it would be a little bit different, and this gets complicated. I mean, I think the parties understand it, but the new lieutenant step one for associates and bachelors would be identical to the new sergeant's top out for associates and bachelors, with then increases of, I believe, 4% in year 2 and 3. So again, we estimate the total cost differential to be somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 over 3 years. We've conferred with staff and the manager. Sounds like that's doable from a financial perspective. Obviously, it's up to you whether that's something that you guys are willing to do. So that's what, and again, it would have to be ratified to have a 3-year agreement, but I'm being assured by Mr. Keeler and Mr. Dean that they believe that these would be approved by the members. So it's really up to you guys as to whether you would like to go down that road.
Okay. Well, let's.
Do you want to take them each one at a time, or do you?
I'm going to take them
further-
each one at a time, but what I'm going to say that let's get the two that have been discussed,
that's what I was gonna
and everyone seems in accordance with, which is the drug testing and the fitness.
Okay.
Let's get those 2 items passed now, so they're behind us. So,
Good idea.
do you want to read the proposed caption, and then we'll get a motion in a second and move forward on that one?
So for Article 8, Section 13 of both units, psychological fitness for duty testing, the motion would be motion to impose the city's impasse proposal, with the proposed language being the city has the right to require employees to submit to a medical and/or psychological examination by a physician or licensed psychologist designated by the city when such examination or inquiry is shown to be job-related and consistent with business necessity.
Great. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have- Second. Let's do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Markert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Great. All right, the next one.
So for drug testing, which is Article 27 for lieutenants and Article 29 for police officers and sergeants, motion to impose the city's proposal mandating post-accident drug and alcohol testing.
Need a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Commissioner Markert.
Yes.
Motion passed.
There's a delay. I saw your voice first before I saw your mouth move, Tom. So I was wondering what it was like coming down from the heavens there. All
I
right.
am in upstate New York, Tom.
I know
Things
Syracuse
are
is a
not
great
the same
spot. We
here.
love you. We love it. We love it up there. Just wear orange, and you'll be in good shape.
Go orange.
The next article is Article 10 for both bargaining units, which is wages.
And this is for.
Wages or for the officers and sergeants. So
Okay.
we should
Officers and
probably do
sergeants,
those
right.
separate. Officers and sergeants and lieutenants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that sounds tricky. So we'll do officers and sergeants first. So from my understanding, what was discussed is it's essentially motion. Well, actually, why don't you put it on the record?
Right, so and actually you can see it, it would be the union's modified wage proposal, which is in our binder at tab 5.
Right, I saw
If
it.
you go to the last,
Thank you.
you go to
Last page.
page 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's a 6th page, because there's stuff attached, or they have the special magistrate's recommendation, but there's an actual pay plan, it looks like this.
You have it right here.
It's not 6.
It's
So
not-
it's 3.
It's
Well,
5.
front and back.
Is this it?
Tab 5.
It's tab 5.
Tab 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tab 5.
Tab 5, turn
It's page 3 on tab
3
5.
pages in.
Three what?
Yeah, the third page under tab 5.
Oh, third page. I went to. followed council taking me to the other page there. Okay, good.
We
Right,
have a
have it in front of us.
comparison of
Okay.
what we were recommending to
So
look at. Can
you
we look
could
at those
look-
side by side?
Yeah, well,
Want to just review those numbers with us then?
I want to see them side by side.
yeah,
Side by
what you
side,
could look
yeah.
at is tab 10
Okay,
is the city's wage proposal.
okay.
The cost out is on one side, the actual proposal is on the second side.
Thank you. Gosh, I can't see these numbers as well.
And this has a budget impact of what?
600,000-ish?
Mr. Moore?
500 to 600,000 over a 3-year period.
Could I ask a question, Mayor?
Certainly.
And I get frustrated when we're doing things in this way, and no offense, because I know we want to get this done. But one of our biggest issues is, where does this put us? We had that chart that HR gave us with the 50 highest salaries in the city. One of the biggest problems that we may encounter in doing this is that our highest paid employees in the police department will be making more. And I'm not talking about our chiefs. I'm talking about people below our chiefs than some of our directors in some of these instances where you're including pay increases. Does that become a problem for us? And maybe that's an HR question, because then if we have gentlemen or ladies that are underneath our chiefs down in the union contract making more than, say, some of our department heads, then we need to go across the board and increase the pay for our department heads. Because while someone could argue, well, it's a different job, it's a different department, it's not. And I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's relevant.
We are getting an answer. And we have our HR director
Thank you.
still showing up at the table, which is
Yeah, so
need a bigger table.
no,
Yeah,
as you know, and I've talked to many of you about this, that is something that we're going to have to address relatively quickly concerning our department directors and assistant directors as we move the scale up for rank and file police and firemen. So yes, we will have to address that.
So this is going to have an effect on all the salaries citywide?
100%, Mayor. Absolutely. And that's
Okay.
always the issue that is overlooked when you're negotiating these things, because you're
You said the
looking at
fire
one thing.
department too, so that means we're gonna have to address it either way? Because we're not discussing that contract today.
Yeah, so as we move forward, we're going to have to address the department directors and the assistant directors for any of these collective bargaining agreements that we have that have substantial increases for folks making a lot of
We're
money.
gonna have to address it regardless of the outcome of today.
We're going to have to address it. Yes.
Okay,
Even if we
thank you.
didn't do this? Okay.
Well, this will impact it, though. It becomes, right, I
Okay.
mean, he
Do we
said
know
it
what the-
will impact
do
it.
we know what
That's what
that
I'm
fi-
trying to get a little bit of a handle on. When we look at that chart of the 50 highest paid employees, you have to look at that chart, and then you have to look at where your department heads sit in that chart. Then you have to factor in these increases, and then you have to say, what does that look like when we take these increases? How do we move other people? Because it's our job.
No, I understand your
Concern.
concern. Do we know what that economic impact, that ancillary,
That's to be determined over time, ladies and gentlemen. It would not be an immediate impact. It's something would have to be managed over the next couple
It
fiscal
would
years
be an
and
immediate
beyond.
impact.
I also look at what the impacts are 5 years down the road and 10 years down the road, so.
Right.
Which is what I'm speaking of. That's what I mean when I talk about the next coming years, the next couple years and beyond. It's something that would have to be managed, not to mention there are operational analysis considerations that would have to be factored as well, working with the Office of the Chief of Police and everybody else concerned. We have to do what we can to strike balances, and that's the case in either scenario, in either case. So, nevertheless, it's a continuous process one way or the other.
I mean,
it's my point
We're
in the
talking
coming
about
years.
the same market, the same competitive market that we have to operate in. So of course one impacts the other. We've known that all along. I don't understand why now all of a sudden
Because we're
pretending
ta-
like this changes anything
No,
in
no,
negotiation
it
process.
is because we're adding 600,000 to the upper pay levels versus
Yes.
before when we were adding more to the lower pay levels. It absolutely has an impact.
Of course it does.
Right, that's my point. But I don't know what it is monetarily. That's my question. And I don't expect an answer today, but I appreciate, thank you.
It should have no bearing on this
It
conversation.
has a bearing.
It is
It
a
all
function
has
of
a
our radar
bearing.
screen. So
That's the problem.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, we can't look at any
Commissioner,
pay
we
thing in
are
isolation
mindful and we
without
have
the
to
impact on other
manage that.
salaries. I mean, just
Exactly,
can't do
Mayor.
that.
Thank you for understanding
So what is the,
So the motion would be to impose the union's modified wage proposal as outlined on the record, which is essentially the Boynton Beach plan. And this is officers and sergeants. We'll do the lieutenants separate.
see, I'm having a hard time because I don't know what the impact is because we don't have the number of what that impact is going to be. You know, I mean, the ripple effect is not irrelevant here in terms of what it's going to cost the city.
Agreed, but I think there would have been a ripple effect regardless of which pay plan was adopted. There's always a ripple effect, and as you know, your general employees, the Evergreen study was not brought before you, and it actually suggested that the pay plans always be addressed according to the Consumer Price Index,
Right.
because that's when you fall into these problems. So religiously, the commission, every time that you are in budget season, should look at those pay grades and have some type of 1%, 2%, 3% increase, and that was actually in the study. And so without doing that, you're always going to be 2 steps behind because you're not keeping up with the market, and you're also not keeping up with your bargaining employees who are, every 3 years they're coming before you.
Okay. So
So the motion was to impose the union's modified wage proposal as to the officers and sergeants.
Just one point of clarification so it's on the record.
Thank you.
Your current pay plan for officers and sergeants, well, for officers is 12 steps.
Okay.
The pay plan would be 11 steps. So just the way it would work is everyone currently in step 1 and 2 of your pay plan would all go into step 1 of the new pay plan, and then everyone would adjust accordingly. So if you want to see the comparison, I think you would ask for it. On the proposal that we're contemplating is the page 5 or page 3 of
looking
the
at it.
unions. And then if you want to look at how it compares to the city's current proposal, it's tab 9. So you can see, I don't know if you guys have them in front of you.
It's tab 9 is the actuary report.
I'm sorry,
It's tab 10.
Tab 10.
Yeah.
So if you put them side by side, you can see, for example, in the current fiscal year, so FY 24-25, you can see that the step 1 of the union's plan is actually lower than ours.
Right.
And you can see that, but the increases are similar across the board, so they top out higher. So the associate step 1 is 69,000, ours is 72 and change. Bachelor step 1 is 71 and change, and theirs 74 and change, and ours. And then if you look at the top out, it goes from our proposal is 109,446.94 for associates. It would then go to 112,393.73 under theirs. And for bachelors, it would go, ours is 113,758, theirs is 116,822.
So roughly $3,000 and change for each.
Thank
on
you.
the
Thank you.
increase in
I
top
really
out.
appreciate that information.
So the increase in top out, okay.
Did I get that? Okay.
We
If
have the
somebody wants to
motion.
make a motion.
I think we did.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right, any discussion, any further discussion?
No, thank you for that entertaining
Okay,
me.
please
on
call
that.
the roll.
Commissioner Casal.
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes?
Commissioner Markert.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long.
Yes.
Motion
Okay.
passed.
And so, Brett, do you want to put on the record the lieutenants and sergeants, because that was a complicated
Well,
one?
that was officers and sergeants. This would
I
just
mean,
be
lieutenants, I'm sorry, yes.
So sure, lieutenants is a tad more complicated, but I will walk you through it.
Thank you.
So again, look at this page of the union's proposal. What we're going to do is, we're going to, if you look at their proposal for lieutenants in year 1, we're gonna actually drop it down so that it's the same as sergeant's 5. So in essence, the new lieutenant's 1 would be 141,997.92. for associates and 145, 121, 88 for bachelors. And then steps 2, 3, and 4 would follow what's currently 1, 2, and 3 and what they propose. So it would be less costly than the way the union proposed it.
Okay.
And we think is fair in the marketplace. And so again, that would be year 1. Year 2 would be 145, step 2 would be 145, 121, 88.
Right.
For associates, 148, 314, 56. For bachelors, step 3 would be 150, 926 for associates, 154, 247 for bachelors. And step 4 would be 156, 209 for associates, 159, 645 for bachelors. And then those 160s would come out. They would not be, that would not be part of this plan. And then they would increase, just to be clear, what COLA, did you guys apply for year 2 and 3 for lieutenants? Do we know? Okay, so it would basically be the same philosophy for years 2 and 3. We would knock out the step 4 that's on here, and we would have a new step 1 that's lower than the step 1 that shows on the same pro rata basis as what this shows.
Thank you.
So ultimately, is it by having fewer steps? That's theoretical.
No, it's the same number of steps for lieutenants.
Oh, for
It's
lieutenants,
the same
okay.
number of steps.
Same number of steps.
All we're doing that's different from what the union proposes, we're making the steps lower than what they propose to save some money and to make it, still competitive but not be as costly as what they propose.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes.
Commissioner Markert.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell.
Yes, thank
Motion
you.
passed.
Okay, so we got those two.
All right, last but not
So
least.
wages are done?
Yes, is that it?
Thanks.
We're not touching the 185, right? Because that's not
We're
on
on
the table?
we're
We
not
don't have
on
to vote
that yet.
That's
We
good.
haven't gotten there.
We're doing pension now, Mayor.
Now we're doing pension.
Article
Okay,
12,
good.
both bargaining units. So the pension proposal would be to impose the city's proposal, correct? With modification.
What I would
How would you
suggest
phrase
is that you
Can you go into the mic?
impose the union's proposal on the drop extension, and then we'll deal with the 185 as a separate motion.
So it would be the drop extension to an 8-year drop with a start date of October 1st, 2026. So a motion to impose union's proposal of an 8-year drop with a start date of October 1st, 2026.
And that includes a 3-year contribution.
With all
to
the
each
same
of those.
Yes.
delayed
It's
COLA
your
and the
proposal.
3% contribution from years
What-
5 to 8.
And what about the COLA provision?
Same.
Yes, exactly what the union has on the table currently, which includes the contribution and includes the delayed COLA and the 8-year drop starting 10/1/2026.
They're still getting the COLA, and they're still getting, as long as they're employed, and the 8-year drop, correct? The
So
last 3 years, they're
the
going to
members
still
are
get
gonna
their COLA.
contribute.
but
No,
they're
their
gonna get-
COLA,
No.
there's a wage COLA and a pension COLA. This
Right,
has
it's
nothing to do
separate.
with their wage COLA.
Correct.
Their proposal is that the pension COLA, that increase their pension, doesn't kick in until after the drops separated. So it's going to delay that COLA for potentially 3 years for somebody who drops for 8 years, which again is partly what saves city money by going to that.
Oh, so we're not taking off, they just don't get it. It's just, they don't. they're not-
They cannot, while they're
Not
participating in
all
the
the
drop,
time.
there's no pension COLA.
Okay.
Members would contribute 3% of their salary during the extension period, which is months 61 to 96, and then the drop would be extended from 5 years to 8 years with a start date for all of this on October 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Could I ask to be entertained for one brief moment? There's a slide. There are still 6 competing cities that have the 5-year drop, I believe, based on one of the slides we've seen. I just want to remind everybody that every city is not moving in this direction. That's not the case. There are some with 6-year drops. And, I think there are a lot of reasons to not consider the 8-year drop. A lot. Upward mobility for the younger people. Would you go over the reasons that were on the slide?
Can we
when
not do this? We've been over
No,
all
we
this.
can't. I would like to be entertained for
I
another
wanna hear
moment. The city presented the slide recommendation for the 5-year drop. The city recommended the 5-year drop. Can you put that slide up? Can IT put that slide up for the reasons?
We already have a consensus on the drop.
No, we don't
Like,
have a
we-
consensus. We're voting it right now.
How do we vote?
We don't, actually.
Okay. That's the wrong president.
That's the wrong one, but that one says the six agencies have a 5-year drop. There's still agencies with a 5. 1 has a 6, 2 have a 7, 6 have an 8. It's not unusual to have a 5-year drop. Could you go to the city's proposal, please? Thank you.
Read what the slide says, because I have it. Or you-
Yeah, actually, if you'd like to read it, that would be lovely. Thank
So
you.
it said, the slide stated, why
Can
should
you
the union...
read a little louder? I'm sorry.
Why should the union proposal be rejected? It adds additional costs for retaining highly paid senior employees, limits promotional opportunities. Cost savings of drop change are far less than the loss to the city of use of, well, the premium tax revenue is not going to be an issue because that's separate. So it would be, it limits promotional opportunities and adds
Right.
additional costs for retaining highly paid senior employees.
Right. Thank you.
I move that we accept the union's proposal for the drop program.
I need a second.
No, wait, you can't read it like that because the union's proposal includes the 185 funds.
Please read the motion.
Sure. So it would be a motion to impose a modified union proposal that would provide an 8-year drop. It would extend the drop from 5 years to 8 years. Members would contribute 3% of their salary during months 61 to 96. There would be no pension COLA while participating in the drop, and the start date would be October 1, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Carney,
No.
Commissioner Markert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell,
No.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we're done that part, right? We're done that part. Good.
So then the last part is concerning the Chapter 185 money. My recommendation would be a motion to maintain mutual consent as to current use of Chapter 185 state premium tax revenues.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Markert,
Is this a yes? Say that motion again, please. It broke up a little bit.
It's just to maintain the mutual consent as to the current use of Chapter 185 state premium tax revenues.
In other words, the city would retain it's the 185 money and use it the way they've been
Gotcha.
previously using it.
Gotcha. Thank you. I could hear it that time. So, yes.
Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassell,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Oh, good. Do I have any more to say on this thing?
You might have 7 more pages.
Meeting adjourned, you could say that.
No, I have more comments. Well, I'm happy to say that we have reached an agreement this afternoon, and this agreement is going to be presented to the union for vote. And if it passed, it will be imposed by the cities. And as effective date of what date? October. What's our effective date?
3 years.
For a 3-year contract.
From October 1, 2024 until September 30, 2027.
Great. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
You're done, Tom.